with Professor Samuel Kobena in NIM. Also on our chopping board, the computerized school selection and placement system has released the list of schools for candidates who sat this year's Basic Education Certificate Examination. Officials at the CSSPS say that out of the 547,329 candidates who sat the examination, 538,399 qualified for school placement. That means 372,780 candidates have automatically been placed into various schools. However, 165,601 candidates will have to do what we call self-placement because they could not be matched to their schools of choice. We've got this on our table as well. Always remember, the phone lines are active. When we activate them, just give us a buzz. Let us know what's on your mind. But in the course of the live stream, what are you thinking? Share them with us with the hashtag AM Show and let's know. But talking of thoughts, I'll be sharing my blunt thoughts with you today, being a Friday, and I have titled it, Tightening the Noose and Turning the Screw, the Ordeal of the Ordinary Ghanaian. Want to know what I have for you? Stay with us. After Prime Take, I'll be delivering that. For now, though, let's settle for the news up next on the AM Show. Let's settle for our first story. Now, the Pensioner Bondholders Forum says it has ended its picketing of the Ministry of Finance to demand an exemption from the Domestic Debt Exchange Program. This decision follows an announcement by Finance Minister Ken Ofori-Atta in Parliament that pensioner bondholders who did not sign up for the exchange program were exempted. Parliamentary Affairs correspondent Kweku Asante now reports.
It's been days of picketing, but finally, the Pensioner Bondholders Forum have gotten what they have always asked for. The Finance Minister, Ken Ofori-Atta, has announced publicly for the first time and here in Parliament that pensioners who did not sign up for the debt exchange program are exempt from the program and their coupons will be honored when they fall due. They have been chasing this for some time now. They had the boost when the former Chief Justice Sophia Kufu joined them for that protest at the Finance Ministry. In Parliament today, they have gotten that. Here's the Finance Minister on the floor.
Public debt at general government level, including SOEs, ESLA, and DACHI, its present value terms was 103% of our GDP compared to the debt sustainability limit of 55% for countries with medium debt carrying capacity. Mr. Speaker, I subsequently wrote to their convener, letting him know, Mr. Speaker, that all pensioners who did not participate in the bond offering are exempted. Mr. Speaker.
After this presentation by the Finance Minister, Ken Ofori-Atta, the minority MPs tore into his presentation. They argued that the minister must accept full responsibility for what the economy is currently. For some of them, they do not even understand why Ken Ofori-Atta is still at post. Here are some of the things minority MP said after that presentation by Finance Minister Ken Ofori-Atta.
How can this group of people that call themselves property-owning Democrats are the ones collecting people's properties? There must be consequences. People cannot destroy our livelihood. People cannot ruin us. And when you ask them to leave their office, they say they will move. A job that we are not paying you, you are not willing to resign. And every day you are giving us one funeral after the other.
If you evaluate what the finance minister is doing and evaluate what #1 of Men's Gold did, the two are synonymous and the same.
His vice president, his finance minister, they are in a bubble. It's even so annoying when the finance minister met them. The finance minister, all he had to tell them was that Boaminamin Boao. You are actually doing Boaminamin Sieu.
Majority MPs on the other side acknowledge the difficult times Ghanaians are facing, but said that this is a bitter pill that is necessary to help the country get back on its feet.
In addition to that, Mr. Speaker, there are 3 outstanding revenue measures that we believe that if we should pass, will also help us reach an agreement come March.
I also speak to ourselves as members of parliament. In cutting expenditure, charity must begin at home, and we must lead by example.
The government could perform its statutory obligation was to resort to debt financing because revenue generation domestically was an uncontrollable situation. And what do we do today? Do we continue to allow Ghana to get destroyed because of politics?
Well, for his part, Speaker of Parliament Alban Bagbin was categorical in his instruction to Finance Minister Ken Ofori-Atta to leave pensioners alone.
I'm happy to hear that they are exempted, and what I can tell you is that leave our pensioners alone.
Yes. I have no other thing to do than exemption has been given. This is in the records of Parliament. Even though I haven't received the letter, the records of Parliament is there, it's clear.
It means the picketing has ended.
It has ended. And Ghana, our beloved country, is free forever.
So, Honorable, what do you make of the debates on both sides?
Well, it's good they spoke about all this. You see, we shouldn't have taken our elderly through this process. But of course, it shows that this country, there will always be people who will stand up for some of these things.
Finance Minister Ken Ofori-Atta has finally exempted pensioner bondholders who did not sign up for the domestic exchange program. Reporting for JoyNews, Kweku Asante, Parliament House, Accra.
Well, from Parliament, let's talk about some 200,000 junior high school graduates who are yet to be placed in senior high schools. This follows the placement of some 400,000 candidates who sat the Basic Education Certificate examination last year. Some affected parents and pupils gathered at the Nat Hall on Thursday to secure placement into available senior high schools across the country. James Kwesi witnessed the process and came through with this report.
From loudspeakers, coordinators shout instructions from every direction of the hall. Hundreds of students, some with their parents, have gathered here to secure placement into various senior high schools across the country. According to the Ghana Education Service, 165,601 candidates out of the total 538,399 will have to do self-placement because they did not match any of their preferred schools. Some of them have been sharing their frustration.
There's a grading system. We know that from 6 to 9, you get your first class school or A school. Then from the 10 to I think about 16 or so, you have your grade B school. That is what has been given to us. So if my child has gotten 9, she deserves to have the A school. I mean, it's also good for you to have your child in the A school to compete with people of that class.
I didn't have a school. I graded 1, but I didn't have a school.
You didn't what?
I didn't have a school.
At all?
Yeah.
You were not placed in any school?
No.
Okay. So now you want to be placed in a school. Any particular school you would want to go?
Yeah.
What school?
Maybe Kibi Senior High or New Joab Senior High Technique.
To go and do what course?
General Arts.
General Arts.
Yes.
What's your grade?
31.
31?
Yeah.
Okay.
No, it be day way it take it. Me, I don't like body. Because body school, so no have money, it they worry you. Your doctor go make basa. Same money no dey your pocket, it go worry. So I talk to you say make take day. By all means day no say I chop gari, you need to go chop gari.
Deputy Coordinator for Free SHS, Nana Afra Sikamensa, has been explaining the process.
We are doing it for the category B and then the category C schools. You know, those schools are a bit empty, so we need to fill up those empty spaces in those schools. So that is what we are doing here. We have students in the STEM schools, but you know, it's a new schools and it's a new school that are coming on board, so we want to increase enrollment in those schools. That is why we are doing a lot of education on the STEM schools. When you go to Pasimpe, we have a lot of facilities in those schools, but the number is less, so we need to increase enrollment in those schools. That is why we are preaching, or we are educating parents on the STEM schools here.
She has also warned parents and the general public against paying money to middlemen to influence the placement process.
The exercise we are doing here is basically free. We are not supposed to pay anything. That is why this year we have tax here, just to signify by those who are staff and you are working. So when we see those in tag, they are the people you have to submit your issues to. If anybody meets you outside and tell you that you have to pay something, you shouldn't pay anything to the person. Come to the NAT or don't talk to any security man, any cleaner at the gate, but just come to the Bediakon Hall Street. We have staff here, well trained, and then they will address all their issues for you.
Some of the parents and students who went through the process are hopeful they will secure placement before schools reopen on Monday.
As a self-placement, so we came in, they just told us what to do. The process is very simple. We wrote the schools that we want behind the placement form that we printed out. Then we wrote the schools that we wanted him to go. We wrote it behind the form, we just submitted it. So they said we should give them by Saturday or Sunday. We can go and check it. And probably maybe something good will come out. So it's good. We didn't spend that much time here. Yeah, the process is not bad. Everything is fine.
According to the academic calendar of the Ghana Education Service, all fresh students are expected to report to their various schools on Monday, February 20, 2023. But whether all these people will be placed by then, only time will tell. James Kwesi-Aveji's report, read to you.
Now, students of the Etimetim Mase RC Primary and Junior High School in the Efija-Kwabre South District of the Ashanti region are asking government to fix the dilapidated structures they learn in. The students, numbering more than 400, say they are scared to sit and learn under loose buildings. The school also lacks basic study resources, which is affecting academic work. Love FM's Clinton Yabwa was there and filed this report.
The Etimetim Mase RC Primary and Junior High School has not seen any major rehabilitation since its establishment in 1950. Broken windows hang by the thread. So this is the class 4A block. It was constructed to accommodate the surplus intakes. Unfortunately, squeaking doors with loose hinges and bolt locks give intruders unfettered access to the classrooms. The old, weak and cracked blocks yearn for renovation. A closer look at the window frames reveals rusted welded metal wires exposing their sharp teeth. Parts of the aluminium roofing sheets are rusting away. Meanwhile, their remains hang loosely on tiny erected concrete pillars. The plight of students at Etimetim Mase RC Primary and JHS is worsened when it rains. Class sessions end unexpectedly whenever the cloud gather. Aside from its dilapidating state, the school, serving over 400 pupils, lacks modern educational facilities and essential resources like desks and textbooks. Sanitary conditions at the school is an eyesore. It will be very difficult to get close to the toilet facility behind me, considering how dilapidated it is and how unhygienic it is. Unfortunately, the facility has been hijacked by residents here, and criminals have also inhabited the place.
If you follow your toilet, no, afa, say be ama your teachers for no clampa to toilet in himself, ma, toilet in the toilet do be a chocolate coffee.
Parents and residents are worried by the situation.
No, Bebana Sebi, a conforming man united me the since school nim, and one school in Tumpon, and then I say, Ohana motor bore a colebi, Omupia rough, a quine who had a meton day, and Obebana way across the road in it, and Obebana way after her at school. No, I had that school day or who ya, Ocean school, a submit my part at any time. School, no, school at it. A queen be near Nintini be now to say a school no, the Janabiani baby a corner. Yame, a woman penny for my boy, and I feel and so your best at you need to be see.
This is how exciting pupils are to study. All they seek for is a conducive environment that does not threaten their lives. Reporting for JoyNews, Clinton Yeboah.
Now, let's talk about scaling up innovative research that addresses Africa's challenges, which has become crucial in the 21st century. However, most research works with commercial potential on the continent remain on the shelves of universities. The Kwame Nkrumah University of Science and Technology organized a workshop to valorize research results as part of activities towards fulfilling its mandate as an entrepreneurial university. There's more in this report.
The training, funded by the Building Stronger Universities of the Danish Ministry of Foreign Affairs, was a partnership with the Kumasi Business Incubator. 55 lecturers and student researchers benefited from the hands-on workshop. The participants were taken through research commercialization, market push versus technology pull, design thinking and idea pitching to investors. Project lead Professor William Odro, in his welcome address, urged the participants to translate their research results into products, stating that it is the surest way for Ghana to attain accelerated development.
So what am I saying? I'm saying an Africa problem is here. So this is the university-driven thing. The universities, all the universities in Africa. Nelson Mandela University, which is a new university that has come up from South Africa and Tanzania, they have tried, they've understood this, and they want to change that. So they are running a graduate school. It's all graduates, and they have very small population. When you go there, they just look at entrepreneurship and that. So what?
The director of the Kumasi Business Incubator, Mr. Samuel Akomia, called for interdisciplinary collaboration to ensure efficiency in business startups. He again urged the investors to find creative ways to secure funds for their projects. He believes communication is key.
Stakeholders, including private sector, alumni, and sometimes bilateral partners, and also NGOs and so on, that want to do business or do research with the institution. They also come up with funding. And all depends on how you have communicated your previous project outcomes.
In our next story, Upper West Regional Minister Dr. Hafiz bin Saleh has warned that the Regional Security Council will not sit unconcerned for the security of the region to be compromised. He says his outfit is more interested in the accelerated development of the region. Addressing chiefs and people of the Pulima traditional area, Dr. bin Saleh stated he wouldn't allow any individual or group to hold the region to ransom. Rafiq Salam reports.
One major concern of the people of the Upper West region, particularly the Sisala Enclave, is the Wahentumu Highway. It is the country's 13th most important highway, but has never been given the needed attention. It is bumpy, deplorable, and could be mistaken for a rice paddy pitch during the rainy season. The 75-kilometer project is always awarded piecemeal, and its construction is as old as the Fourth Republic. It has featured regularly in every government's budget that has ruled this country since the beginning of the Fourth Republic, and yet less than 53 kilometers of the entire 143-kilometer stretch is covered with bitumen.
For us to get to the point that we are now was not a child's play. We had to meet all those who call the shots in this country for the contract to be awarded. As you may all know, the entire stretch was awarded to one contractor, Greenhouse, but at a point in time, I had to advise the Minister for Roads and Highways for that contract to be terminated and awarded to 5 different contractors. And the rationale is for the quick execution of the project.
Despite the spirited effort put up by government to construct the remaining 75 kilometers, the lives of workers of one of the 5 contractors taxed by the government to execute the project are threatened over a disputed parcel of farmland used as a gravel pit forced on them to temporarily halt the project for almost 3 weeks. Prior to the stoppage, there was confusion in the Pomo community following the firing of guns by one of the feudum factions. Aliu Salifu Idrisu is the project manager of Pascal Investment Limited.
We were at the site there, and then the community, the youth, they mobilized, and then they came, said they are coming to guide us so that nobody can come and sack us from the pits. So we're there, and then they called one of the community members that they had a gunshot in their community. So those guys, they all rushed to the town. Then I told my people that then we have to stop working.
Now, the National Health Insurance Authority is exploring measures to improve healthcare delivery in Ghana. According to the Chief Executive of the NHIA, Dr. Benjamin Akakpo, there is the need to implement a value-based care system rather than the current one, which is focused on volumes. He made these comments at the opening of a 5-day workshop organized by Farm Access Foundation and partners in developing and piloting a value-based care model for Ghana. There is more in this report.
It has faced a number of challenges that have hampered the need. The National Health Insurance Scheme was established in 2004 in a bid to achieve universal health care. The scheme aims to provide all citizens with equitable access to basic health care. It has faced a number of challenges that have hampered the needed health care delivery. Farm Access and its partners, Leapfrog to Value and the Christian Health Association of Ghana, are working with the National Health Insurance Authority to develop and pilot a new value-based care model. Speaking on the sidelines of a workshop in Accra, the Chief Executive of the National Health Insurance Authority, Dr. Benjamin Akakpo, said value-based care is a panacea to the provision of better health care.
The National Health Insurance Authority is now going towards electronic management of its claims process. And this electronic management or digitized process allows us now to consolidate and crystallize all the information we have about Ghanaians who attend hospitals. And that is where value-based care comes in. So that if, let's say, 2 conditions account for 80% of all hospital attendance, it will be in the interest of this country, based on the data we have, to do something about these 2 conditions. And value-based care allows you to invest in interventions that would even prevent people from presenting with these conditions.
The current insurance system rewards the value of healthcare delivered outcomes. The reverse, according to the Executive Director of the Christian Health Association of Ghana, will reduce the burden on the scheme in paying claims.
It is the intent of the government and indeed the entire society to ensure that everyone living in the country will have access to quality healthcare, the highest attainable healthcare, timely, without any financial barrier or restriction. If that is the case, that anyone living in the remote segment of the country will have the same level of care as in Accra and the rest. What it means that we must ensure value.
And that is how we cap off the news this morning. But stay with us. We dig into the papers. I, together with Samuel Kojobrace, shortly. We'll be right back. Thank you for staying with us. Time now for the news review. It's brought to you by Endpoint Homeopathic Clinic, and we are offering free prostate screening and free female fertility screening. Locate us in Accra, Spintex opposite the Shell signboard, in Kumasi, Kronum Abwehia behind the Angel Educational Complex, Takrady in Anaji Estate, Tema Community 22, Techiman Hanswa, and Esiama in Zima. Call 0244 867 068 or 0274 234 321. Endpoint Homeopathic Clinic, the end to chronic disease, and only the beginning of the news review. I have joining me this morning one of my favorite people, Samuel Kojo Brace. The other day I had to, call him to stand in and do some, what is it? And he didn't have to do it in the end, but he got here. It shows you he's got my back, bro.
Charlie. Yeah. In my language.
Buenos dias. Bon dia. Guten Morgen. How do I respond when you say?
So when I say moahi, say yeah, marumai.
All right, let's do it.
Moahi.
Yeah.
Marumai.
Yeah.
Marumai. If I like add marumai, so yeah, marumai.
Oh, so and you? Is that?
No. Yeah, marumai means good morning, brother.
Yeah, what?
Marumai.
Malumai.
Malumai is okay.
Let's do this again.
So moahi.
Yeah, malumai.
Good. That's a good start. Then you can ask.
Antano will become way very very soon. Shouts to Justice Maidu.
Exactly. Then you can ask Kedia. I mean, Kedia is simple.
Okay.
Kedia means how are you?
How are you?
More okay. Simple. Kedia.
So you could start and then I'll do
okay.
malumai.
So
Kedia.
Moahi.
Yeah, malumai.
Kedia.
More
okay.
Good.
Simple.
Okay. We're getting some Ahanta lessons this morning on the show. But before we get into the papers, there's this development.
Yeah. Once we are...
That child.
Exactly. So once we are in Ahanta, we're doing Kedia Moahe. There's this boy in Osiejo, which is a farming community in Ahanta West, who had this problem called esophageal stricture. We went to the house. When we heard of it, we went to tell the story, and we got viewers of JoyNews really impacting this boy's life. I mean, we were able to raise enough money to pay for the surgery for this young boy. So today, as I speak to you, he was operated on Monday, and he's recovering at Kolebu. So we must say thank you to everybody who donated, everybody who gave.
Right.
To support this young boy, because look, this is a 25-year-old boy who could not eat for the past years. That he only fed through this means, pumping.
I know. Then he had to push it through.
Yeah, it was something else. Yes.
Wow.
But today, by the grace of God, he's been operated on, and we've been told. So there he is in the hospital, and there's Dr. Innocent Ajamli, who is the lead surgeon on his case. We're told that I think today is from Monday, so it's like the 5th day, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's like the 5th day. So 5 days from now, he will be
So tomorrow will actually be the 5th day.
The 5th day, okay. So he will be able to start eating on the 10th day after the surgery. So we're expecting that some 5-6 days from today, he will be able to consume, because he wasn't able to even drink water. So if he's able to drink water, taking Milo and all of that, it means that
every little bit is a step.
Exactly. So
every little bit.
We are making progress. So we'll be there. I mean, we are telling our listeners this update. We are so grateful to them. People contributed from 1 cedi 80 pesos, and it tells you how much the person had when he saw the story. He had so little. So he decided to give 1 cedi 80 pesos. Others gave 10 cedis, 15 cedis. Others gave 1,000 Ghana cedis. We had someone who didn't want to identify, him. He's like Neo2. There are so many Neo2s around.
Yeah.
We used to call him one, Sapon. Yeah. He gave $3,000, and Comsys bought 27,000 cedis.
Wow.
Towards the surgery.
While things are hard, the reality too is that when there is crucial need, you see people popping up. You remember, is it Leonard? The genius from, is it St. James also? NSMQ shack. Ibrahim Muhammad stepped in together with other people trying to assist him, trying to get him back to school. When I was listening to the guy talking about pi, and it's, I mean, we've been told before that it has issues, but the way he was deliberating on it, the confidence and everything, and for him to have owing to bipolar disorder to have sunk to that level. I felt it in me. I felt if this were me, I would have really wanted someone to reach out. And looking at his circumstances, it all started from his father passing on. He calls his father a common teacher who who couldn't afford to pay his school fees at KNUST. And then all those things, the cookie came crumbling. And some of these, one reason I love our platform, not just because I'm here, how we target these social issues from the 8 who died on the Volta Lake to Pandai district and the deficit of desks now. Desks have been sent there. Not all of them. There's a deficit of about 2,000, but desks have been sent there. You get it. And recently, when we started with our classroom project relaunch, if you like, some of us have been targeted. Our faces have been put on some of these images. And do you know what? I have some friends, each one of us has been given a target of 10,000 seats. I have some friends in the UK, some in Ghana, who have already,
giving you
pledged and some made contributions. And if I put them together, you would see that Ghanaians really, and we'd love to salute you. When we put these out there, they are not for us. They are for the people out there. And we are so grateful that you actually assist us to do something. There's also that school, Bremanjamra.
Yes.
The Tolon area. It's still ongoing, so if you'd like to contribute, in fact, that is the project I'm speaking of. We'd be most grateful. It's 44 minutes past 6. Let's make tracks with the newspapers, find out what they have to say. Lamentably, though, I've just been praying for some more news in respect of Christian Achu, but yes, right now nothing is coming. Though it has been said that where his building was, thermal instruments, cameras show that there are some people still alive beneath that place, but we still don't have any real, and every day I wake up, that gets on my mind, and it really makes me, worried. But I mean, we pray for a miracle. Still.
What they say is that once the thermal instruments are able to show the images of live people, it is when you get close and are able to speak to them that you can really confirm that they are still alive. We pray for such a miracle, that he will be found alive. I mean, it will be one of the greatest miracles of the century. But we pray they are able to locate him alive. They said they found his shoes. I felt that was not even something they should have put up, because really we didn't need the story about finding his shoes, or we wanted to find him. But it's okay. Let's see if we can get stories about him being found alive. Ben.
Let's get into the stories now. You have the Ghanaian Times, and which other papers?
Yeah, I have the Ghanaian Times, the Daily Guide, and the Daily Statesman.
I have the Daily Graphic, the Finder, New Weekend Crusading Guide, and the Ghanaian Publisher. Let's start from your end.
Okay. Now, domestic debt exchange program, individual pension bondholders exempted as government commits to well-being, dignity of pensioners. Parent children besiege Accra Resolution Center to address challenges. That's with the placement system. And GA RECSEC, that's the Greater Accra RECSEC, deploy security on East Legon land to forestall clashes between feuding factions. West Hills Mall murder case docket forwarded to AG for advice. Now, let's do a bit more on the bondholders now. Individual pension bondholders who did not tender in their bonds in the ongoing domestic debt exchange program have been exempted, Finance Minister Ken Ofori-Atta has disclosed. According to him, the agreement with the aggrieved pensioners was raised on Wednesday in a letter he wrote to them. Now, quote, in Wednesday's discussion with them, I sent a letter out to their convener very categorically that all pension bondholders who opted not to participate in the exercise are exempted from the DDEP, end of quote. Mr. Ofori-Atta told Parliament in Accra yesterday. So, after days of fighting, they have really gotten what they wanted, because for them, all that they wanted is for government to say, you have been exempted, and they have indeed been given that, leeway.
Finally, some smiles on their faces. I listened to the convener saying that, while he had been in Parliament and had been following the process, he had basically been saying, oh, it's oral, but then, they take your phones and all of that. But then after the proceedings, he went and checked his phone and found some missive there in respect of that. So for them, they are taking it that, look, it's settled, and we're getting exempted, which is what they wanted in the first place. So I guess we are no longer going to see Professor Osam and Sufaya Kufu picketing.
And then he brought the famous Nkrumah statement that Ghana,
freedom. We've secured our freedom forever.
So I mean, it's good that they've had that, and it's good that government has also listened to them. Let's look at the parent besieging the Accra Resolution Center. Now, hundreds of parents and their children yesterday thronged the Accra Resolution Center to address challenges with the award school placement. The center, located at the Ghana National Association of Teachers at Adabraka, was jam-packed with parents tumbling over each other in a bid to have their concerns addressed. It took a high sense of professionalism by officials led by the deputy coordinator of the Free Senior High School, Nana Afrasika Mingsa, and the public relations officer of the Ministry of Education, Larry Botre, with assistance of the police to avert chaos at the center. So, Ben, I mean, the CSSP has said there are over 160,000 students who could not be placed by the system. So now they have to engage in self-placement. Exactly. So the parent had thronged the center to ensure that their children are placed. Let's see how it goes. I thought it was a bit chaotic in the beginning, but like they say, they were able to get things under control. Let's see how it goes. But there are questions we need to ask. Why were these students not able to be placed by the system? Is it that we need to work on the system itself to be able to ensure that we reduce the numbers? Because this is too huge. Over 160,000 students. I mean, we need to look at the system again to see how we can minimize the number of people who are not able to be placed by the system. Ben.
Let's get into the Daily Graphic newspaper now. And parents, students besiege school placement center. That story you were just making mention of. And then in their constituency watch, Wale witnesses improvement in development projects. And, you know, sometimes you would just imagine how those from the West would pronounce this. Wale, Wale, Wale. Have you heard them pronounce names?
No, I have not.
Anyway, I have not. You should listen to them sometime.
I know they will massacre the names, you know.
There's also Accra City Hotel Graphic Showbiz Weekend of Love starts today, just worthy of mention. Government won't shortchange pensioner bondholders, that's according to Finance Minister Kenneth Oriata. On the back page, demolish structures on water courses. Works Minister tells assemblies. That's another interesting point. You know the rains are approaching. We've started the talk again. The talk shop. No action, talk only. No action, talk only. When I say no action, you say talk only. Okay. No action.
Talk only.
We're very good at that.
But that's how it is. Yeah, look, since time immemorial, we've done too much talk, less action. Look, last time I was telling you, go to our universities and look at the research that people have done. Sitting on desk.
Well said.
Wow.
But look, we even had a Constitutional Review Commission do work in 2010.
Spend millions of Ghana cedis on
How much of that did we accept? About 10%. White paper, and then it's gathering dust. I was at an event recently where we spoke about some of these things, and I don't know. Other countries are planning and executing.
Yes.
We can't even put together a proper plan. And even where we have a plan, politics comes and bites into it. So it must always be colored, tinted, or tainted with NDC, MPP colorations. And they started this, but we're doing our own. In sharing my blunt thoughts today, there's something I'll be getting into, some of these abandoned projects, but not necessarily. We say Agenda 111. Yet there are so many hotspots, hospital facilities that we could have renovated, which are dilapidated and all of that. We're just talking about a school this morning, Etimtim, and the circumstances of the school. Yet we say what? You know, we want to put up new school buildings and that. So we never finish anything. We always have a huge backlog.
I think so.
Instead of dealing with, look, let's tackle health. Let's do this strategically. These are the facilities, even Kolebu. There's a lot more work that can be done on Kolebu because it serves the West African sub-region. What are we doing with it?
Ben, I think sometimes it's deliberate on the part of the people who lead us. Because I say this because there was this road in Takrade that developed a small pothole. We spoke about it. Nothing was done. We washed on for a huge area to then get, you know, like it went beyond repair. Then we'll go and cut a huge area to try and reconstruct the road again. And for me, I mean, for a layperson, I just couldn't understand why we did that. When we could have spent something small on trying to fix the pothole, we waited for the whole area to destroy first. Then we would go in there to repair. So sometimes I look at certain things and say that, well, maybe it's deliberate so that people can make some money into their pocket. Because if you go and repair...
Oh, that is part of the plan.
Yeah. When you go and repair a small pothole, how much will you make? But if it's like a reconstruction, people make money. So, you know, you don't know whether we we don't have people who love this country or what. And it's about time we try to put Ghana first. There are a lot of things that we do. Look, this whole drain issue that we are talking about, the fact that rains are coming again. How long have we spoken about them? We always say, oh, we will do this, we will do that, we will do blah.
It's always in the pipeline.
And then we will sit there, the rains will come again and beat us again and cause havoc. People will die. And then we say, we would ensure that this doesn't happen again. Till when will we convert our talking into actions so that we can prevent some of these very preventable disasters that occur, resulting in people losing their lives? When? Till when? Is it that when?
It's like manifesting in Debi. Debi no. Daben. When?
Is it that when they put us, they will do the same thing? I can't understand.
You know, and I always say that we need a certain kind of leadership in this country. Nkrumah, where are the houses he left? Look at some of these young politicians nowadays. Do you see the structures they are erecting? Do you know where they live? Yes. Some of the media people who are on the take, do you see how they splurge? Do you see how they live? Some of us have decided that, look, with our backgrounds, we can't afford to, you know, it's that kind of, you've seen luxury, you've seen Ohiabubro, and in the middle, you've come to a certain focus. You can't afford to be compromised. You can't afford to do certain things because integrity is much more important. But you look at what our leaders do and how they live and how the rest of us live. There's this joke I saw recently. It was in a cartoon image. Jesus feeds the 5,000. And then a picture of one of those quack pastors. The 5,000 feed the pastor. That is the reverse. That's the situation we have in our country. Instead of our leaders serving as these misleaders want to be served. And they take away everything from us. And we sit on nothing.
It's serious. I think we should have a change of mind. The way we handle this country is not good at all.
But young people, Nankasano, so you also say that young people, I feel we have too many old people. Again, I'll say I'm not ageist, but we have too many old people in certain places where we need young, revived thinking, sharp. Some of these people, look, let me tell you, go to some ministries and agencies. There are people there who can't, elderly people who can't even manipulate a computer. You get it? Yeah. I'm not denigrating what they do, but their capacities in these modern times are limited. How do we deal with them, see them off nicely, and let more capable people in those capacities? I'm not saying
are you confident that when the young man goes
that's my concern.
You would ensure
that's my concern. You speak to some of these young people now, and you see there's a danger with learning, and we see it from some of our leaders. If you learn and you know the ins and outs, the crevices, and you want to be a crook, the most dangerous crooks are the enlightened ones. And that's why I fear, because you speak to some of these young people and they'll tell you blatantly, but the old ones, them come chop. Me, I get that. Why I no go chop? That's the problem. So I'm also afraid that if some young people get in there, what are they going to do?
Charlie?
It is what it is.
It's some way.
Let's quickly wrap with the Daily Graphic. Government won't shortchange pensioner bondholders. And the Minister of Finance, Ken Ofori-Atta, has calmed the nerves of pensioner bondholders, insisting that the government will not shortchange their legitimate right, but will honor their coupon payments and maturing principles like all government bondholders. He told Parliament yesterday that the government remained committed to the well-being and dignity of the senior citizens and pensioners. But the convener of the pensioner bondholders, Dr. Anani Entry, in an interview with the Daily Graphic, prayed the government to walk the talk by honoring the various maturing dates of each of the bondholders, looking at the precarious financial condition of the country. To him, the surest way for the government to remain afloat and honor its pledge was to cut down on the size of government to rake in more cash. On the international front, Africa CDC expects Mpox vaccines to arrive soon. I'm talking about monkeypox. Then there is President of Nigeria, Muhammadu Buhari, I nearly said Baumia. Muhammadu Buhari yesterday gave approval for the central bank to extend the deadline for people to turn in old banknotes by another 60 days after cash shortages stoked anger ahead of presidential and parliamentary elections next week. And maybe just to wrap, African leaders to reinitiate free trade zone discussions. All of those stories in the Daily Graphic.
Okay, Daily Guide. Bitter side chick case begins.
What do we call this? Side chickism. Side chickism.
Oh, better side chick case.
For the one corner there.
Oh my goodness. Anyway, it says the civil case in which a side chick sued a sugar daddy for breach of an agreement for him to take care of her and sexual harassment yesterday began before an Accra High Court. The court, presided over by Justice Olivia Obing-Owusu, has ordered counsels for the parties in the matter to file their written submissions by February 23, 2023 for the case to proceed to trial. Charlie, will be an interesting case to look out for. So, Deborah Seyram Adabla, an unemployed former national service person, has sued a sugar daddy, Ernest Kwesi Nimako, the chief financial officer of First Atlantic Bank, for failing to take care of her needs as agreed upon between the two. The plaintiff, in a suit filed before an Accra High Court, avers that the defendant has failed to fulfill his promises to her, which included giving her a lump sum to start a business after her national service, buying her a car, renting an apartment for her for 3 years, giving her a monthly stipend of 3,000 Ghana cedis, and marrying her after divorcing his wife. Oh, we'll see how this case progresses.
It is true what they say. One man's meat
is another man's poison. Okay. Now, National Vaccine Institute bill approved. Government swaps 83 billion cedis owed bonds. NPP presidential race. 102 MPs endorse Bawumia. So that's the story there. Says over 2/3 of majority caucus members of the governing NPP in Parliament have overwhelmingly thrown their weight behind Vice President Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia to become the next flag bearer of the party going into the 2024 general elections. Information gathered by Daily Guide indicates that over 102 out of the MPP's 138 MPs strongly believe that Dr. Bawumia is the rightful person to succeed President Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo if the party is to break the 8 jinx of a single party in government since the inception of the Second Republic. Then
I have a question. What happens if the party opts for Alan?
Oh, I mean, but you know that in politics, you come up with A, it can result in B, but they would always have a way to come to.
But you know, these positions, these cracks always have consequences.
Oh, exactly. But you see, a party that is determined to win power would always do anything it can to unite. Look at the NDC. And who says that even the MPP, before they won the 2016 elections, they were that united?
I mean, there was the Afoko issue and all of those.
But when a party says, I want to win power, I mean, sometimes it goes beyond what we see.
It's not just about hoping for it. It's about, these are human beings you're talking of, with emotions, with temperaments, with hurt feelings, with all kinds of things. And sometimes it's not that easy. Do you think even the NDC recently, the reshuffle in Parliament, there are simmering tensions?
That's where I was coming to.
Simmering.
That's why I was coming.
The former minority leader has been removed from some 7 committees and all of that. Do you see his... I feel there are still some things in there. Did you see his reaction when he was given a seat and said, oh no, it is for... But I felt there was more to it.
The thing is that, you see, in parties, I mean, what I've come to understand is, when it comes to political parties, there is the permanent interest, but there are no permanent friendship anywhere.
Right.
So you only look at the tide and then you move along it, or you move in opposite direction. So I'm saying that if a party says, I want to win, and everybody is aligned, like what the NDC is doing, there are cracks in the party, isn't it? But when you look at them, they are presenting to you a united front, isn't it? Apart from, I mean, what happened in Parliament? They've all come together to say, okay, we accept it.
Right.
Because they know that there's a bigger thing. Like Kufuor said, it is better for you to be a cleaner in a ruling party than to be a general secretary in an opposition party, isn't it? So when a party knows this, they would want to say that, look, after the primaries, we forgo all factions and move in one direction. So, I mean, there can be cracks, but if the party is determined, they will know that they have to whip members in line. But it will be an interesting contest in 2024. Really, really interesting.
Let's wrap with the papers in some 5-6 minutes. Are you done with that paper?
Yeah, I think that's it. It doesn't have Manchester United, so I'll move on.
It doesn't.
Yeah, it doesn't.
Does it have Chelsea? I saw a paper with Chelsea.
Well.
Saint-Germain based.
The thing is, I wanted to.
Neymar.
I'm not. Anyway, it's new. So
Chelsea, which player haven't they bought? I think they. Charlie, how about the players in the former, Kwai Bibrim and I think they could play for Chelsea.
No, the thing, they'll fit it. They'll fit
Who's
it.
that?
Yeah.
They're buying anyone now. Once
They,
you can throw your leg, they'll buy you.
They should
I hear Chelsea's bench is now like from here to.
But they should bring money to come and buy me. I'm a good defender, so they should come and buy me.
They could also buy my producer, Derek Ekosam. No, on a more serious note, just play some good football. I'm surprised you are laughing.
No, I mean, you know what? Derek plays a good football, but Derek's size would make every team reject him.
Oh,
yes.
Oh, wait. Did you see Ronaldo? I mean, the Brazilian Ronaldo at the point. Which World Cup was it? 2000 what?
Derek is more heavier than Ronaldo now. Derek is good.
Have you
but
seen Ronaldo?
No. But Derek is more heavier than Ronaldo. Look, don't let me say certain things. Derek is my boss. You put me in harm's way.
This is a discussion that he will have with you after we are done. In fact, I recuse myself from this conversation.
You are leaving me alone?
Wait here.
But I'll come Manchester United. You know he's a good Manchester supporter. I mean,
you're a Man U fan.
I tell you what, this is my blood.
So Man U fan.
Oh, any area.
Man U for
any area.
This
production is a Man U production.
This is a Man U production.
Yeah, it's a Man U production.
The final newspaper, Janapo calls for calm to resolve a Ramsar site impasse amicably. 6 MPs condemn purported enskinment of rival chief Oboku. That's an area I would like to pick your thoughts on. Amwabeng urges politicians to stop interference in systems put in place to check corruption. And I'm talking about Prince Kofi Amwabeng. Recently I saw a story from him from an interview where he said, back then UT, they were ruthless in getting their money back. And he says if he had the opportunity to do it again, he would do even worse.
Yeah.
Like, Charlie, you can't come and take my money and expect that when it comes to time to repay, then you will somehow be Charlie.
Because the thing is that the money is not for him. Sometimes people have put in money
I've taken other people's money to lend to you so that you pay back. I get a bit of interest, and I'm able to meet my commitments to those who have banked with me. That's it. Approved pending fiscal measures as well as mid-year budget in August, Oforiata to Parliament. But let me just go to that Boku issue. That's the only one I will look at. And 6 MPs condemn purported enskinment of rival chief Oboku. This was in yesterday's papers. And we know the MPs. Yesterday I interacted with Mahama Ayariga. But what's your take on that Boku issue? Let's just look at that briefly.
Ben, you see, I don't know why the paramount chief did what he did.
Some say it had been a long time coming and that it should have been done, but others also say this is a recipe for disaster. What do you think?
Because the Supreme Court has ruled on the matter.
And technically, they will tell you that the ruling was not all-encompassing and that there are substantive issues.
How so?
It was about the Mampusis not coming back on a specific issue and that it is not all-encompassing.
No, but
those are the arguments that
uphold the legitimacy of the chief, the current chief now.
It's a bit of a gray area.
Yeah, well, I feel that the paramount chief should probably have hesitated a little, consult broadly, and to see how this could have been handled.
Right.
Because at the end of the day, you don't want to be a chief who superintends over a very conflict-prone area. You should want to have that peaceful or peace prevailing in your communities. I don't know much about it, but I feel that once there was a chief there, the paramount chief then should have probably found a better way to handle this. In Parliament, the MPs, they have all condemned what happened. It tells you that people do not want that to be happening. You don't want your name to be in the news for the bad reasons.
Yeah.
So there should be a way they should handle this matter such that it won't escalate into something we don't want to see.
Right.
At the end of the day, we want people to survive. People who may die could have become president in future.
Yeah.
Why do you want to lose your human resource? So let's see how we can handle this.
Another thing I'm concerned about, the proliferation of arms in that area.
Yeah.
Apparently, there's so much in terms of arm caches from both sides, the Sasis and the Mampusis, and that's something that we must really look at, especially looking at the terrorist threat in the sub-region and the location of this area, also close to Burkina Faso. We have a comment coming through. We have to wrap shortly. This one says, Abubakar Siddiq Hood. Good Good morning, gentlemen. Watching you live from Idra in the Ashanti region. I really love watching you people every day, and thank you for serving as well. God bless you and all your reporters across the country. And Abeduna Marvin says, good morning. I am really enjoying your show this morning. We're grateful that you've taken the time to watch us. Let me just do these headlines briefly. You'll do yours. And
just a message. This one says, KB, the side chick issue, dear. You are interested, Papa? I'm not interested, but it's something we needed to
Side chickism. Side chickism. New weekend crusading guide. Queen Mother flays EPA task force for unlawfully destroying poultry farm in Sunyani. There's also Ankobra River's turbidity improves. George Meku Duka says it's a reflection of government strides in fighting Galamsey. Masa, you let me not talk too much about this. Ahead of rainy season, Works and Housing Minister puts Pishi Lagoon constructions on ice. The Ghanaian publisher, Minister makes peace with Nungwa chiefs over Ramza site. And there's also Goyle celebrates Chocolate Day with customers. That's it from my end. For you?
Okay. The Daily Statesman, this one says, Sofiata debt exchange will trigger economic turnaround. Government compensated Ijra shooting victims. Canada Japan urges MPP to tidy up for 2024 and no work on Peshi Lagoon. Minister takes action to avert perennial flooding. So that's it there. Back page. Borussia Dortmund 1, Chelsea 0. Blues haunted by scoring issues again.
So many chances spent, and then is it Adeyemi or so?
Adeyemi.
You know, Adeyemi, he
says
sprinted all the way, but he says do you know what he says gives him? He says Nigerian fufu. But maybe he's not tasted Ghanaian fufu.
He hasn't. When he does, he will know that.
We'll pardon him. But you know, fufu is fufu. The Nigerians have a certain way.
Yam pounded fufu,
and we have our own style of doing it.
But Ben, just before we go, you know, when some public officers are doing so well, you have to appreciate them. In our Grand Quanta, the police officers there are doing some fantastic work. They lack several resources, but they're doing their utmost best. And I would want to say kudos to them. You say the word is kudos.
Kudos.
So kudos to them.
Yeah.
Inspector Moses Enimo, Inspector Eric Ninsen, Sergeant Razak Aguma Abdul, Corporal Achu Samiegbe, and Corporal George Amankwa, Inspector Bismarck Apenton. Good morning to all of them. They are fantastic people. So that's it. In a hunter will say,
yeah. All right. Who clothed me this morning? Catherine Gordon of Catherine Garments. She's making me look fly. So if you like it, and my shades are by Shades of Sam. You can check them out on social media.
Okay.
My blunt thoughts, which today, actually, I'll be bringing you much later on the show on the back of our engagement with the government statistician, Professor Enim, and then some conversations we're going to be having later will be titled Tightening the Noose and Turning the Screw, the ordeal of the ordinary Ghanaian. Look forward to that one. Up next, though, we have sports. It is Prime Take with Muftal Nabila Abdullahi. Don't you forget, the news review was brought to you kind courtesy of Endpoint Homeopathic Clinic, the end to chronic disease. We'll be right back with sports.
Thank you. How are you doing?
Good. Good to have you here.
It's my pleasure to be here.
Yeah, great really to have you and your crew.
Very nice environment here, Coach.
Thank you, and always tell us what we need to do to look better.
That should be what?
Yeah, we want to always look better than what we are today. So
I should give you feedback.
So always give us feedback, and for us, feedback should be both positive and then negative, and we pick it well in very good faith.
Congratulations on your appointment as assistant coach of the Black Stars.
Thank you.
Did you see that coming?
You just need to be working and then allow the system to decide.
but just this answer is quite an interesting one. You keep working and allow the system to decide. I remember you and I had a conversation that was around the COVID time. I asked this question, whether you could manage the Black Stars, and you said already.
I remember very well.
You said,
I remember. I said every Ghanaian coach is a potential Black Stars coach, and so you just need to be working and wait for the right moment.
The moment is here?
The moment has always been around, but you just need the right timing, and the timing is really very key. If it is not the right time, you might get things very wrong. But I think that we are in it, and trying to do always you can always do your best, and as our dear president said, you should not be on the fence, just looking at what is happening. But you should be a citizen, and a citizen means that you should be fully involved towards the nation building contribution, and I think that our contribution is to always serve to the best that we can. Always you can always do what you can, but the ones that you cannot, you have absolute no control over. And so these are principles that has been supporting and then guiding me around the lines.
I clearly understand. But your life journey, how did it start out?
I was really born in a football home. My late dad, George Sole Dramani, was a coach and became an astute sports administrator. And they were the few that were identified by the late Almighty Ohinijan. And together with together with Ben Kofi, Asibi Boachi, Nanan Ketia, and George Dasobri, and a few others, who had the opportunity of traveling across the world to understudy various models of sports operations. And he was more a football inclined, but they were modeled to specialize in various areas, but they were very astute football administrators. So, and then he rose up to become the acting chief executive of the National Sports Council, and also became the general secretary of the Ghana Football Association during the reign of Nana Butler and my uncle, the late Alaji MND Jaula. And and in view of this, I had the opportunity of traveling across the country, a civil servant, always being on the transfers, Bolga, Tamale, Accra, across the country. So at least I knew many regions before even football took me around. And so this is the home that I came from, and you can imagine. But I actually started very early playing Coles football right away from Bolga. If you heard about Abuba Tanda Seydou, former RTU player, became Hasselhoff player, and I played with him in Soccer Masters in Bolga. So I started schooling in Bolga, and I played for Soccer Masters, and then we were transferred to Tamale, and so I was actually born in Tamale, and then went to but we went to Bolga, and then I started playing in Bolga, and then we came back to Tamale, and then I played for House Babies, and House Babies. Gago also played in House Babies, but I was an older player in their squad. And so Eduse identified me, Coach Ike Eduse. He identified me, so he's always been my mentor. And then he introduced me to Reed Tamale United in '83, so very early.
Oh, then you started?
Yes, very early. I was very young, and then playing in the den. Then under 20s, the very pronounced under 20s that was instituted at that time, and across the premier teams. So every premier team had an under 20, and we played.
Even used to play the reserve league.
Yes, and then it was after this that the reserve league also came up. The reserve league used to be in place those years, and then the under-20s came. You know, the main focus was directly on the youth players of the various premier teams. And then after some time, I think in 86, I was promoted to the first team. I was the captain of the under-20 side of RTU, and then I was promoted to the first team, and then after some time, 89, I became the captain, and until I left, you know, RTU to Cape Coast Ebusiando, and I just felt to have a change of environment, because I had served, you know, for long. In that capacity and in that region, and I just felt that I needed to have a change of. So I played for Duals from 93 till 98, and then I went back to RTU 98 to 2000, and then I went to the university in 2001. And along these lines, I was playing football, you know, in my school days from primary to JHS.
All the way to the university?
Yeah, all the way to the university. In the university, I was playing and coaching as well. And
so you combined
yes,
school, playing, and then coaching?
Yes, but I started really with my coach club, Has Babies. And it was a funny way to transit into that field, because I went to watch their game, and I found out that the centre back stayed too far from the team,
yeah.
and I was asking him to move further up the field, and then I tend to ask myself, are you fair to this player, because he doesn't know you, and then he has his own coaches, so how do you just tell him
come in and say
move in, and
yeah.
So I felt guilt of myself, so I decided to go to their training subsequently, and then that was just history, because I changed a lot of things. I put some structures. Even by then, I was just a trainer. I wasn't a coach, because I was not trained.
That was quite an
yes. But I put in some structures. I put in some model in terms of how I appreciated football. You know, the way you appreciate football is by virtue of your experiences.
Yes.
So maybe you appreciated counter-attacking, maybe you appreciated speed attack, maybe you appreciated, possessive play. And so that will inform you to begin to create certain principles. Even at that time, I created principles because you needed something that your players will rely on. You needed a certain guide. You needed a certain way of defending. You needed a certain way of constructing your attack. So in view of you needing something to be defined of who you are, you've put in place some principles. So even at that time, I put in some principles, so they knew how we're training. We train just as we want to play in the games, and they knew how we did things, how I wanted my player to behave on the pitch and off the pitch. I started to institute these things unknowingly, and unknowingly, honestly.
Yeah.
And then, but I was very, very deliberate. I was very consistent, and I created a sense of patience around the players, just to.
But who allowed you to get close to the players?
Because this club was my former coach club that I served for a longer time.
Okay.
And so
you were more of a family member.
Yes, a former member, and then they also knew that I played to the highest level, and so definitely you have an input to make, and definitely they don't have claimed coaches around, and then so if you volunteer your time and energy and resources, to do it, and I remember those times. Sometimes when we have games, I have to ask my wife to cook, from my basic small salary from my teaching field. I still invested because I knew nutrition was very important. Even at that time, I just knew that they needed to have a certain way of livelihood to be able to comprehend what you want them to do. So you need to begin something.
The food will even serve as motivation.
Absolutely. And then and also, we needed to input them a certain way of life, to appreciate that, hydration is important. They need to bring some water along. Because I knew I couldn't do it all, so I needed to act in a certain way of fathering them in that way. And so that was how all the coaching interests, and you know, you need to have the interest first, and then the commitment will come, and then you can say you become more a professional in that context. So this is how it came. And so in 2001, I enrolled into the University of Winnipeg. So and on the vacation of the first semester, that was 2002, I had the GFA putting in place the 5-year development plan by Uncle Ben Kofi.
Yeah.
May his soul rest in peace, and that was the reign of Mr. Kwesi Nyantakyi. So I went to do administration. You know, it was to lay the.
You wanted to follow the path of your father?
In fact, I just thought that the coaching that I knew was higher than what they were coming to do. That was my impression. Because when they said basic, I said, if it's basic, I felt, I knew I had a certain level of knowledge of the game, because I spoke a lot with my late dad about coaching. Things that I knew from my father at that time, still today they are still modern matters, and we spoke more technical, even though I was not a trained coach by then. So when I went to think that I rather need administration, and then Uncle George Dasobre, Ima's father, and he
became a young secretary of the
yes, he knows me very well. You know they are like a family. The 7 guys that went to that Ohinijai took to Europe and America. He said, "What are you doing here?" And he was the lecturer in the administration class. He said, "No, you belong to football, to coaching. Go to the coaching class." So I went to the coaching class, and Uncle Ben was the one instructing, and he didn't know me at that time, and I didn't introduce myself to him. So, but he realized that, and then in their conversation, break conversation, he was talking about a student who is almost answering every question. And then Mr. Dasobre said, "This might be my son." He preempted that it might be me.
Yeah, it's possible.
And so after that, I did so well. It was done in all the regions of Ghana, and it was geared towards bringing sports, football administration, refereeing, coaching, physiotherapy, and then sports science, and then laying of junior structures, so that these coaches and then other components that have been trained will have the chance of youth teams around U12, U15, U17. So predominantly I was made the regional coach of the 5-year development plan. Yeah, so in Tamale I was a coach, so I gathered a lot of and one of them is Baba Rahman.
Really?
Yes.
Oh, Baba Rahman is your product?
Yes.
Oh, I see.
So we put both boys and girls together, and then sometimes they are over 100, and then I train them before they break into their clubs, and it was to do this. And once doing this, I was still teaching in the senior high school.
Which school were you teaching?
I taught in my posting was Kumbungu Secondary School, but I did my internship in Ghana School.
Oh, okay.
And then when I came, my posting was in Kumbungu, and it's like Ghana School wanted me, so they gave me assurance. Everyone wanted an elite coach, and then it's like, and then when I went to report my new establishment, the headmaster was my former geography master from Business Secondary School, Tamale.
So you went to B school?
Yes, I went to B school. And then he was like, Mashoud, can you be in my school, because you are an elite guy and then you are brought to this village? I said, Master, once you are here, why not? I will also contribute.
Yeah.
So I devoted time for them, and then I changed so many things there. I really did well. They didn't have an athletic oval, they didn't have a football pitch, and it was all clouded with trees.
Yeah.
We uprooted the trees, and then we set up an oval, and I did my best there. And then once in the university, I had an encounter. I went to train, and I saw a group of players training and very quiet on the pitch. I said, who are these?
They should be talking to each other.
But there was nothing like that. And it's like they were always signing.
Which university was that?
University of Education, Winneba.
Oh, okay.
And it's Winneba branch.
Yeah.
And it's, you know, I did HIPES there.
Yeah.
HIPES is health, physical education, recreation and sports.
Oh, okay.
And they were just playing and the place was quiet. I said, oh, what am I seeing? What is happening? They were always signing. This was the deaf football team, the national deaf football team. So I became enthused, and I'm always trying to help in the schools. Yes, I always want to support, you know, schools. I want to support, you know, community. I want to, you know, always helping out something. So I went closer and I asked, who are these? And then I helped them. So I went to my cubicle and they followed up to say they have a game against Nigeria and they want to invite me to become their coach.
You didn't have a coach?
No. So I voluntarily went to give out my best.
How were you able to communicate with them?
I started learning how to sign. Because they were teaching me and I could sign. Those times I could sign. And then I knew everyone's name by signing. And they will always look at me because they knew I was going to communicate.
So you've been the coach of deaf and
yes. So you can imagine those years when they said, where are you back coach? You can imagine. and sometimes I tell them, look, me, my coach is a mumpo.
I'll come to that.
Yes.
Or I'm not coach.
Yes.
That story. We've got,
yeah. So these moments, I had in plan that what will I do to be able to facilitate my quick development and progress in the coaching industry. So Mufta, what came into my mind was that then I have to put in place a club. I have to create something because in my locality, and I stayed in Kukuo in Tamale.
Okay.
Each time the politicians come and they organize football games, I'll just put them together, and I always want to create some structure. I want us to play in a certain way, and I could even scout from other communities and then
neighboring communities.
Yes, and then just to build a team, and we come out and we play with a certain discipline. So I thought that, no, why do everyone want to play in RTU? And RTU was the only club, and the next first division club was Nanuba National in Bimbila, which was coached by Nasa, my very good friend. So I said no. Then the then GFA Executive Committee Chairman, Mr. Y.A. Ibrahim.
Yeah, Y.A. Ibrahim.
And I sold the idea to him, and he said, oh, let's put in place a club. So sometimes he will invite me to his place by then he was in Jamestown, the SEPS.
Oh, okay.
Then I'll go there, and then he gave me some balls, and I started scouting with it, and then it further out. You know, I'm just talking about how Guan United came about, and then I was just thinking, and then I was always talking with Abu Hassan Raizo, the Northern Regional RFA, and then he promised that, oh, I think the best thing is that we have to buy a bus. It's a good thing. I'll do this, and then it fizzled out. And I kept telling him that, I said, I think you have been supporting sports a lot in the region. You need to own a club. My passion was not to own a club. My passion was to put in place something and then have the chance of coaching
and help
the talents around. And then that one also fizzled out. And then my late dad, he said, don't give up. I know what you can do. Don't give up. He kept pushing me. So when I met, and then he met Alaji MND Jola, and then we were sitting, and I said, Chief, your friend is Isai Hayatu, and I know each time you go to Cameroon, he takes you to his club. I think that you've done so well you deserve to have a club. So I've put in place this, and I want you to just be an owner of it, and then be our founder and everything. So that was how we got Guan United. By then it was Lepo Stars.
It started as Lepo Stars.
Lepo Stars. So when he was going to be installed as skinned as the Lepo Ura, and then I suggested to him that let's play a game against RTU, and that game ended 2-2 in Salaga, and that was the first time he saw the boys, and he realized that no, this. I had a Seydou Salvu, I had a Kwame James Aban, I had a Issa Yakubu, I had Tia Zakari,
Yeah.
I had all this. And
all these players, they played in the Premier League.
Yes, I got. These were the guys that I started with, and so that was how this current Tamale City is now Tamale City. Gwan United is now Tamale City.
Yeah, it has metamorphosed.
Yes, so that is how Lepo Stars became Gwan United and then Tamale City. And before then, I had the opportunity of training as a coach in different, different environment. The CAF C license, B license, A license. Became an instructor, became an elite instructor and assessor. Attended so many, CAF programs with Uncle Ben Kofi and then Uncle Osam Dodu and then Otia Kenten. So for me, I was mentored by these great people.
So you learned the ropes.
Ben Kofi, Osam Dodu, Sam Ade, Otia Kenten, Mr. Ike Eduse, Mr. Afrani, Herbert Adu. So you can understand all these people. I had something.
These are revered.
Yes, I had something. I had something unique from each one of them, and then I had my own philosophy to build. So and that's why when I was in Kotoko, in my first year, can you imagine that Uncle Ben and then Osam Dodu, they came to visit me in Adakoja Dachi. And I remember when he came to see us training, and then when we finished, and then he had a talk with the players. He asked them, "Guys, is that how you guys train?" And they said yes. And he said, "Then you have to win the league," because he said, "I've never seen a team train like this. Very professional, very positive in their approach, very welcoming with great effort and energy." And that was the week we turned things around when we went to Pandu to win at.
I remember I watched that game on television actually. I remember that game. I watched that game on television. How did you always feel anytime they were saying that Kotoko is not a my team and more confirmed my coach?
I think that my first training session was a Thursday. You remember we met the then President of the Republic, Mr. John Dramani, when we came from the World Cup. And so that very day, I flew to Kumasi, and I had my first training session. And then I remember it was a Thursday. And then I remember when I was walking down to the pitch, and in the entrance, I saw an old Kotoko fan and I was in the shores. And then I remember he said, "Hey, Akwa will beat me." I had this. So walking down, and then when I finished the session, and then when I got to him, I said, "Open, Akwano, obey me." And then he said, "Obeya manabros." So these things were my initial point of talks and thoughts. So I had this in my mind always, that I needed to bring my person, full person. And when you are bringing your full person, it means you needed to have your confidence. And the only way you can have your confidence is when you have your full person, efforts and energy. Sometimes Dr. Honorable Pat will prepare, a very good dish, and Doctor will walk to my bungalow and then come and sit with me and then tell me that, "Let's go, lunch is ready." And then we come there, and then we are eating, and I'm just thinking about training session. And so the way
as a human being, these things, were there moments to get your skin? As the fans, at the point fans don't believe that this our coach can do it.
Yes,
even after you won the league.
Yes, these things when it happens, the only wrong you would think would have been done to you is when they ask you not to be on your pitch to train. That is when you don't have anything to be able to show as an edifice of what work you have done. So always the prayer was that once they talk and they don't stop you from what you are supposed to do, if they were stopping you from what to do on the pitch, then there you will not have anything to prove. But once they don't stop you from doing this, at the end, what happened?
Aston, were you scared of getting the sack?
No, not at all. No, I had at a point I was just saying to my, is it that they don't value what you are doing? Is it that, and then that was why I was thinking. I said that it means that it is important to build your own technical staff. Wherever you move with them. And I said no. Then I'll again answer myself, and I said no. Use the ones who are there, raise their capacity, let them create values for themselves, let them grow. So at the point I started pushing.
Was not with you?
I started putting them in the coaching courses, so that they can upgrade, and then so that they can think the way I see things. And I moved all of them, including Gordon Ablodi. Now he's an A license, Wellington, B license. I had a
Henry Wellington? Or
Henry Wellington. Now with the summer test, right? I moved them to an appreciable level, and then later on, Michael Osei also, had an A license through the we will call it So once thinking about this, you were just thinking that no, they are not stopping you from training. Go on with whatever you think. At the end, you had majority of the players.
In the second season?
Yes.
I remember that was the 2014 season. I remember the pressure, massive pressure, because the season did not start well, actually. The season did not start well.
I think 2014 was really very good. 2012, 2013, I was away with the female team in the World Cup. So the season started, so I wasn't part of the... even though I was joining them in the preseason, intermittently.
Yeah, but I recall that there was this.
That was 2014, 2015.
2014, 2015.
Yes.
Because I recall that there was this article that came from Kotoko Express that at this point there's nothing they can do about you.
It's when we fail to have honest integrity. That's where these problems come.
Did that get to you? The whole Kotoko Express will go and publish an article about you?
But it showed how a thick-skinned I was, just a young guy, as I look like, and the whole, how can you have your own coach and then you decide not to protect your coach, and then you decide not to protect your brand. It's, Kotoko is a huge brand, and I have tried. You see that even all this time I have never spoken anything negative about Kotoko, because there were so many good things about Kotoko.
But were there also negative things?
Well, thank you for staying with us. And this morning we have the privilege once more of hosting a good friend of the station and someone who is very insightful, heads one of the pivotal institutions in this country, in the person of the government statistician, Professor Samuel Kobina-Anim. What are we going to be talking about? Earnings inequality in the public sector. There's a report on that. And according to that report, the government of Ghana employs over 688,000 persons, with over one third of that is 34.8% of the employees in the Ashanti and Greater Accra regions. Now, the Northeast and the Savannah regions have 1.4% each, giving us a total of 2.8% of the total number of public sector employees. Look at the gap. Now, almost half of public sector employees are aged between 31 and 40 years old. But what do all these dynamics imply for Ghana's development, especially as in other jurisdictions they are complaining about an aged population? We have a pretty young population. What are we doing with that? Joining us for this conversation, we have Professor Samuel Kobina-Anim, government statistician. Thank you so much, sir, for doing us the honors.
It's always a pleasure. Good morning.
Good morning. And I have to reiterate, you brought us some gifts. Can you walk us through these compilations that you brought us?
Thank you, Benjamin. So I have here 3 documents. One, as you rightly said, yesterday we released the earnings inequalities in the public sector. Indeed, it is the maiden official statistics on earnings inequalities.
I see.
So that is the first document that I'm sharing with you.
This one?
The second one is, again, for the first time, we found a need to do a review of consumer price index and inflation for the previous year.
Right.
So the second document is exactly looking at how inflation CPI, consumer inflation CPI, played out. Why this document is important is that for 2 reasons. 2022 was an exceptionally different year for the country because of our experiences with price hikes throughout the year. And we felt that it's important to see how different policies led to various forms of reductions or slowing down of the inflation rate. And this is important going into 2023 because we always say that inflation is calculated based on the current price changes divided by the previous year's price changes. So the experiences that we had last year would impact on the inflation figures that we're going to get this year. That is why we've put the 2022 review of consumer price index and inflation documented and published it. And the third document, which we are extremely happy to share with you, is the release calendar of our statistical products. Okay. So it's important for persons in Ghana to be informed of our activities because one of the measures of our work is impartiality, which simply means that every statistic that we put out there should be known to the public at the same time. Right. So ahead of the year, it is advised that you publish your release calendar of statistical products so that the general public would follow which products will be released and when they will be released. So this is a compilation of the work that we are going to do as a service for 2023.
Wow. So quite a number of documents. You've really been to work, haven't you? You've been working a lot, putting out a number of things. In fact, under your administration, I've seen a number of, what would you call them, innovations, a number of new things like what you're pointing to, this compilation on the inequality, economic inequality bit in the public sector. So we salute you for the good work you've been doing. We'll get to these 2 documents because recently we've spoken about the CPI, we've spoken about inflation slowing down, but food inflation still is going up. What are the dynamics? At least fuel prices are not taking such a toll on us currently. But let's start with the inequality in the public sector. And some of the revelations are stark. You look at some of the population in terms of public sector workers in the northern belt of the country, and then you put that side by side with some other entities, Greater Accra, Kumasi, or the Ashanti region, and you realize that there is quite some inequality in there. Then you look at the numbers. We've always had this issue of a lot of government's funds going into paying people in the public sector with very little left for other projects. What exactly got the Ghana Statistical Service eager to delve into this? Give us that background, please.
So I'm really excited with the way you started it because it's important we put this conversation in a context, and that is exactly what you've asked for. I'm going to articulate at least 3 reasons to support, and if there is time, I'm happy to expand on it, to support why Ghana Statistical Service is doing this. The first is the global perspective, and for us to think about how decisions are made globally and how inequality is contributing to global decisions, which invariably affect us as a country. So if you think about global inequality from 2 perspectives, one is the income perspective and the other is a wealth perspective. And think about the whole global population being put in 3 categories. Those of us in the bottom 50%, in the middle 40%, and the top 10%. Right. And think about the shares of these different groups of persons for income and for wealth. If you think about the bottom 50% globally, their share of total income is just 8.5%. So 50% globally, the share of income is just 8.5%. The situation is dire if you think about it from the perspective of wealth. The bottom 50%, their share of the total global wealth is just 2%. Why this is striking for us is that This is what puts countries into the so-called G7, G20, and this is what leads to the decisions that they make globally, which invariably affect us. It is important for us to mimic this global picture or think about this global picture at the country level. Ghana Statistical Service is clear that an equal state can never happen. We are not putting up this inequality publication, pushing policymakers to drive us towards an equal state. It's never going to happen. That is an egalitarian state.
We'll never come to the point where everything. That's why in socialist regimes, you would see that over time, they have had their own struggles. We saw what happened in the USSR. We've seen what has happened in the place where I've been, Cuba. We may never have a completely egalitarian society, but we can try to smoothen the creases and try to balance the very rich versus the very poor.
Correct. But indeed, what we all want is fairness, which is equity.
Right.
And
which is equity, indeed.
And the conversation around equity is saying that I'm getting this because I am doing this. I am in this situation, you are not in this situation, so I have to get this given my situation. So the conversation about equity should start with inequality. If you don't know your state of inequality, you cannot strive to be fair.
Right.
And inequality, we emphasize that it's just a means, it's not an end. Because it's inequality that will tell you that because I am deprived, because I am earning this low, let me look at my other things. In this case, the other things would be productivity. So we put out this to say to ourselves that if one ministry is on the average getting this income, does it mean that this ministry is more productive than this other ministry? Does it mean that this group of people are doing riskier jobs than this other group, so they have to earn that? So the whole conversation about inequality is we working towards a state of fairness, is we working towards a state that, as we all want, push our gross domestic product up. And the only way we can do that is through productivity. So we need to appreciate the link between inequality and productivity. And yesterday during the release, I said, let's go back to the classroom a little bit. A very basic theory in economics is about the relationship between economic inequality, growth, and development. It's so simple. If a country begins to grow, inequality goes up. If the country reaches a steady state where its growth is consistent and gradually moving up, inequality begins to reduce, and that is when, as a country, you begin to think about development. We have never been able to sustain our growth. We have never been able to say that this is the peak of our inequality.
Because it's always in fits and starts. We go a little and then it tapers.
Exactly.
We go a little.
And even for inequality, since we started measuring it in the early 1990s, it's been inching up. And this is from the consumption expenditure point of view. We started with an index of 0.37, and over the past 4 decades, we are at 0.43. So inequality has been growing, and that is why our development is still a step away, although we see spikes of growth, slow down, and so on.
So we see the disparities, and in fact, it is crucial that we put out these dynamics so that those in power as well, both the technocrats and the politicians, will be able to fashion strategies around this, like you said, the economic principles. What will trigger growth, and how will that impact the inequality and all of that? But the statistics you gave, which we see across the world, usually it's said that the top 3% control so much wealth, in some cases up to 80% of the wealth in different countries. Is that reflective of Ghana as well? Is that typically reflective? There's a general picture, but what is the Ghanaian picture?
So Benjamin, again, it's good we put this in context. This work is representative only for the public sector in Ghana.
Okay.
So we need to think through how the system is run. Let us all not forget that Ghana is deploying the universal salary structure, which means that if you have you are at the same grade, irrespective of your age, your sex, your location, you should be receiving the same amount of money. And this is the state controlling public sector salaries. So to a very large extent, you expect very minimal inequalities within the public sector, apart from inequalities that is as a result of the differences in the grades. So if we see a situation like we published yesterday, where we say that the top 10% of public sector workers have a share of 22% of the total salary. It's nowhere comparable with the global picture that I talked about. It's pretty low. But think about the system. The system is such that we are on a single spine which tries to bring in equality, which tries to bring in some fairness in the payment structure. What for us is striking is the differences within certain payroll categories, the differences across certain MDAs, and differences within certain age categories.
How does, even before I get into the methodology, how you came with all this information, it's also important. How does the single spine salary structure fit into this conversation, especially as we're talking about public sector workers? Has it been able to, so to speak, stem the tide of inequality, or is it only perpetrating even worse? How has that factored into our structure?
Yeah, so the whole idea that underpins the single spine is, again, why we set up the Fair Wages and Salaries Commission.
Right.
The whole idea was to ensure that there is some fairness, there is some harmonization across payments. Indeed, some of the triggers for the single spine was to reduce the allowances component and try and consolidate most of the allowances into the basic salary so that government can really understand the payment that goes to different people for performing different jobs. Two reasons why GSS decided to initiate this was that if this exercise had been done prior to the deployment of the single spine, Benjamin, it would have been easy for us. It would have been easy for us to assess whether single spine had worked or not. And that is why now Ghana Statistical Service is saying that every policy intervention, every strategy should have statistical targets. If you don't have statistical targets, we'll come and sit here and qualitatively we'll say that single spine was successful or was not successful. So at the end of the day, if the single spine was to say that we are reducing inequality from now we are seeing 22% for basic salary to 10%. That is why it is important you do statistics before a policy, you do statistics during a policy, and you do statistics after a policy.
So we got it wrong, right? In rolling out the single spine salary structure, because if I recall correctly, yes, there was some deliberation, but it wasn't extensive. I don't know whether the Ghana Statistical Service was roped in at the time. You were not at post then. And I don't know whether you are aware of any deliberations that might have gone into it. Obviously, we did not have the policy direction that you are speaking of now. We did not have the research, at least from this standpoint, to back it up. Would you say then that it was a bit of an error at the time?
I wouldn't call it an error at all. The bit that I'm talking about is what was the state of affairs. So now I've given you a number saying that public sector inequality is 22% when you use basic salary. It is 23.7% when you use gross salary. So if I deploy a policy now, and I know very well that the Fair Wages and Salary Commission is working around readjusting the salary structure, again based on the universal salary structure. 5 years' time, the two of us can use this baseline figure to assess. So the point that I'm making is that we didn't have this baseline figure when we started the conversation. Now we do.
This then, the next step is to use it to shape policy, to use it to shape things like the single spine salary structure, right?
Yes.
Is that the expectation that moving on would be able to feed these into that, with the knowledge that we have now, feed these into our salary structures to impact the inequality and inequity, if you like, in the system?
Benjamin, this is exactly what Ghana Statistical Service is doing. We are not doing this work on the blind side of the Fair Wages and Salaries Commission. Yesterday, we made a public announcement that next week, latest next 2 weeks, we're going to have a roundtable discussion where we're going to bring on board the Fair Wages and Salaries Commission. I'm in communication with him always. We're going to bring on board the Public Services Commission. We're going to bring on board the TUC, the trade union, and bring on board a labor expert. Look at all these results and ask ourselves, how would these results feed into the restructuring? And I'm looking forward that other, what I call real sector ministries, would also do the same. The richness of this exercise is that every MDA can do it within the organization. And we are happy to roll out this for every MDA so that you can assess the inequality in earnings within your MDA. You have your own productivity indicators and match them side by side.
Let's look at the methodology that went into this. For any piece of research, you would want to know how the findings were brought to bear. How did you conduct this? I'm looking at a chart here which shows the number of public sector employees by region, and it paints an interesting picture. The Ashanti region has 1 percentage point more than the Greater Accra region, which I found interesting. But then again, if you look at size and other dynamics, you would understand it. But what went into the methodology? How did you arrive at this?
So, traditionally, Ghana Statistical Service has relied on surveys and censuses in collecting data. So we go to people, we have a questionnaire, you fill it out, we come and analyze. The global statistical landscape is changing, and Ghana Statistical Service is positioning itself along those lines. You're
changing along with it. Right.
We have to begin to use administrative data, and let me use this platform to thank the Controller and Accountant General's Department for making this data available to us. Our hope is that other MDAs would provide us with the necessary administrative data to do more of these analyses. So we approached the Controller and Accountant General Department and discussed this with them in terms of what our intent is. And obviously we follow the statistical principles of anonymizing the data, making sure that you are protecting the interest of everybody. So they made available the December payroll data to us, obviously anonymized. We sat down, we got them to explain to us what each of the variables would mean and how we're going to analyze it to come up with something like that. So they gave us a data set of about 688,000 government employees.
Okay.
And we analyzed...
Which reflects the figure.
Exactly. And we analyzed it. So some of the things that we did had to do, we did very minimal cleaning because, again, I must commend them. Their data is in pretty good shape, so there wasn't much of a work to do. So once we got that data, all that we needed to do, get an understanding of the data, and then employ the statistical tools to analyze what we have. So in this document, we've just done basic cross tabulations, and I don't want to bore you with the indices that we computed to arrive at that, but always happy to talk about it.
So like I mentioned, the Ashanti region, Greater Accra regions, contributing just about, what, 34% of the entire data, 17% for the Greater Accra region, 18% for the Ashanti region. Ashanti with 125,000 plus, the Greater Accra region with 113,000 plus. Then you look at the other dynamics. I mean, there are smaller regions, OT, for example, with 15,000 plus. The Volta region, though, with over 43,000. But then you come to Northeast, one of the newly created regions, 9,423. These dynamics that come to play vis-a-vis the male-female ratio, you would see that per the numbers that we've been given, looking at the disaggregation, we have 374,000 plus males and then 313 plus females. That gives a gap of about 61,000 thereabouts. What does this show vis-a-vis our population dynamics? You conducted the census, you know where we are, just around 31 million. And then when it comes to public sector employment, the gender issue, what does this reveal?
So, two things. Every country should strive for a balanced growth. What balanced growth simply means is that you make sure that across all your administrative regions, there is some minimum level of structured systems that would propel growth. So the first question is, what minimum number do we have? And then the second question is, what other indicators should inform the number that we expect in each region? Now, following from the 2021 population housing census, as you rightly said, the national population was 30.8 million. Greater Accra was slightly higher than Ashanti region. So one would quickly ask that, if Greater Accra had a slightly higher population than Ashanti region, why would we see the reverse when it comes to public sector employees? Benjamin, the question is, as a country, have we thought through, one, that minimum number that I talked about, for every state, for every region to have in terms of public sector employees? Then we can question why Northeast is holding just about 9,000, whereas Greater Accra and Ashanti region are holding more than a third of it. If we've not had that conversation to know the minimum number, we can't go ahead with it. So it is our expectation that government will see these numbers and then say that, okay, for each region, we need at least 10,000 people based on A, B, C, D. Then the population will come in, then the poverty situation would come in, then the development growth trajectory would come in to inform the maximum number that we have. Right. But unfortunately, that conversation is yet to occur. From the male-female perspective, I wouldn't worry so much about that because, as I said, if you are deploying that universal salary structure, it's independent of these demographics. And in any case, the proportion that we are seeing now is in line with what we saw during the 2021 population housing census, where we have a relatively higher number for males.
And to top up with this disaggregation and the sort of information we need, I've always asked myself, correct me if I'm wrong, but do we know, for example, in this country, how many engineers, I mean, yes, we have groupings for these, but how many engineers do we need in a coming year? How many accountants would our system require? How many technical people are we going to require in sector A, sector B, sector C to ensure that we can meet our jobs gap, but oftentimes because of unemployment. But that is how planning should be. What does this show in that respect? And is that something we should be looking at?
Definitely. And I mean, we've always been looking for the opportunity to engage with the right ministries, the right associations to have this number. And it's so critical. And if we don't know the number of professionals that we need at any point in time, then what is informing our growth path? Our growth path would be informed by what we think we need in terms of the technocrats.
And I also look at pages 11 and 13 of this recent report on income inequality in the public sector, and I found some very interesting things. Government paid about 2.3 billion in salaries and allowances for public sector employees in December 2022, just December 2022. 2.3 billion Ghana cedis. That's what we're talking about, the 688,000. But then you look at the top 10% of the employees with the highest net salaries, and the top 10% earns 22% of the total net salary. And half of the employees earn only 1/3 of the total net salary. I found that interesting. It reflects, in a way, the global picture that we painted at the start of this discussion. What does this reveal?
Let's put in a caveat again from the methodology point of view. And this is very important, and we are hoping that we're going to get your support moving forward because we really are going to institutionalize this conversation. Benjamin, this 2.3 billion that we've published is definitely an understatement of underestimation of what government is really paying to its employees.
You're telling me it's even more than what is here?
Yes, and we footnoted that. And this is because there are some state institutions that do not run their salaries through the Controller and Accountant General's Department. Bank of Ghana doesn't run its salary through there. The Revenue Authority does not. SNIT does not. Some of our traditional universities do not run their salaries through there. And all these are government employees, and government is paying them on monthly basis. The only reason is that they are not on the Controller and Accountant General.
Why is that? Because according to this, that would be a 10% deficit. According to the footnote you've put here, those government employees on the CAGD payroll, that is the Controller and Accountant General's Department, constitute about 90% of the total number, which would mean that about 10% of these people, and that's quite a chunk, we don't know how much they are earning, how much we are paying them, and that's where the problem usually starts.
I mean, this is something that I am told that conversations are ongoing to ensure that all of us are enrolled on one system. Even if we are not enrolled on one system, there should be a mechanism for the Statistical Service to have access to this information to inform decision making. And that is where the roundtable conversation will try and bring on board some of the strategies that we have to put in place going forward to get a complete picture of public sector employees.
When I look at page 13, what comes to mind is equal pay for equal work, in a way reflected by the single spine salary structure. But how is it that the top 10% of our employees, public sector, with the highest net salaries are earning 22% of the total net salary, while half of the employees, I'm sure those in the bottom half, are earning only 1/3 of that? The public sector employees, does this include, our political leaders as well? I mean, how does this shape out? So, and maybe the heads of SOEs, for example.
So if we go further into the report, we're going to get a better understanding of some of these things. But again, I emphasize the 22%, the top 10% taking 22% of the total salaries. From my point of view, it's not too concerning, given the global picture that we presented. But when we're rolling out the single spine, the question is, did we expect this picture? Don't forget that we have people with different grades. We have people with different skills. So definitely we expect some level of inequality.
Variation in.
Yes. Yeah. So the key question is, did we expect a variation to this extent where the top 10% will be taking 22% and the bottom 20% will be taking just 11% of the total salary?
So basically what we're saying is that the top 10% is taking about what? 20+%.
22%.
About a fifth.
Yes.
A fifth.
Yes.
Of the general city. A fifth. That's not, is that too much, or is that just around what our expectations would have been?
That's what I'm saying. What informed the single spine salary? If the pegs that we put on the different grades was expecting something like that, then we can answer. But on top of our heads, we cannot say that it's what we expected because we didn't design the single spine. Yeah. And this is the conversation that I want Fair Wages to take into consideration moving into the review. So that once you are reviewing, we are saying that this is the inequality that we expect, and if we deviate from it, then there is something that we need to think about. Let me quickly mention that this exercise is giving us an opportunity to see where our skilled employees are located. It's very important we think about that, because if you are paying based on grades, based on level of skills, and we find a particular location having a higher average earnings, then the assumption will be that this is where the skills are located. So it takes us back to the question of balanced and unbalanced growth.
Let's look at a few more pieces of information, just to add to what you've said. So when you look at the average allowances, they are much higher for persons with a higher net salary, which stands to reason. The allowances of people with a basic salary of between 5,000 and 9,999, just a shave off 10,000 Ghana cedis, are more than 26 times larger. They should be larger, but 26 times more than those of people with a net salary below 1,000 Ghana cedis. 26 times. You know, it's been said that sometimes in the public sector, someone's allowances alone are many times more than someone's actual salary. And those are some of the issues to look at. I'll ask for your take on that and how we can remedy the situation. But then I would also like us to look at this chart in terms of the male-female comparatives when it comes to average earnings. You would realize that the females are earning 2,504 cedis, averagely, and the men 2,669. That gives about 660.
No,
okay, so no, it's 500, so about
165.
165. And then you look at the dynamics when it comes to the Greater Accra region. Always, it has the highest, and it's reflective here. The Northeast, I think, has the lowest, 2,212. What explains these dynamics? Because I posed this question from education to everything else. If you recall, those in the northern belt of the country had been deprived all the way from pre-independence to independence days. It appears this deprivation continues even now in economic terms. Education is also a factor. So lower education would also mean likely lower ability to earn a higher income. What picture does this paint, especially with the allowances and then the regional dynamics and the male to female comparatives?
So it's one of the highlights of this release, and we always want to reflect on it. As I indicated, one of the objectives of the single spine was to try and minimize the allowances or the differentials that is associated with the allowances. And yesterday we made a categorical statement that allowances deepen earnings inequality. And the reason why we say that is exactly what you said. If you look at allowances, it varies across various income earning groups. And the picture that you painted, the 26 times, I always want to simplify it so that we appreciate the extent to which that differential is of a concern. If you think about those who earn less than 3,000, relative to those who earn less than 5,000, the differences in earnings in allowances is 10 times. So those who earn...
Could you repeat that?
Those who earn less than 3,000 Ghana cedis, their allowances is around 800 Ghana cedis.
Right.
And those who earn more than 5,000 Ghana cedis, their allowances is about 8,000 Ghana cedis.
Wow.
So it's a 10 times difference. So the question is that what we expect again? And does it reflect the risk, the productivity, and so on?
Those are the questions, because if it's equal pay for equal work, or even if it's to say that you are doing so much and so you deserve so much, and you are doing so little and so you deserve so little, then these dynamics may not come to play, because someone who may be earning the 3,000 category may even be doing more work than the person earning above 5,000 and who is earning about 10 times more or 5 times more in terms of allowances.
This is why we say that this is just a means. The next step is to measure productivity. And then align earnings with productivity.
I can't wait for the productivity bit, especially in terms of our SOEs, state-owned enterprises, and the leadership and sometimes the packages they give themselves. I mean, we've heard of some of these leaders who are earning many times more than even the executive, the president and the vice, some earning 60,000, 70,000 plus. And it wouldn't be shocking if you look at, I remember in the UK at some point, the credit crunch and everything, there were concerns about some top CEOs and what they were earning monthly and the perks they were getting. But the question is, what are they delivering? Productivity. How much are they contributing? If some CEO is making, $2 billion for the country and we're giving him or her something as a show of, look, we're supporting this because it is because of your leadership that we are getting this. Fine. But many of them are in the red. They are not even in the black. They are not contributing. And yet we keep paying these huge sums of money.
Statistics is the way to go. We need the numbers on all these.
So from this end, based on this fantastic document that you have come up with, Ghana 2022 Earnings Inequality in the Public Sector, what would you say in the immediate term we should start looking at? In the immediate term, what should we start looking at?
So as I indicated, in the next couple of weeks, we're going to have that roundtable discussion. We're going to work closely with Fair Wages and Salaries Commission, Public Services Commission, and the TUC and the labor expert are coming on board to see how this is going to inform the restructuring of the single spine. The second thing that we're going to do immediately, which we started doing, is the measurement of labor productivity. As we speak, we are just about signing an agreement with the International Labour Organization. We even have a consultant in town so that we can begin to measure labor productivity. Then we do the alignment in the medium term.
What are your projections? I mean, yes, you still have to engage other parties, but what are your projections in terms of this productivity survey? When are you hoping that after your engagements, you'll be able to come out with them?
Currently, Ghana Statistical Service is trying to push for a data revolution agenda, and that's going to be the basis of all the conversations that we are having. There's little that we can do on our side. As I indicated earlier on, we need full state commitment of all the ministries to provide us with the needed data. If we want to measure labor productivity, you need the input and the output across all the government MDAs, and then later move into the public sector. If we are able to get that, we can say that within 2-3 years, Ghana will start producing labor productivity indices on a regular basis.
Right before you take leave of us, we've seen the latest CPI and the dynamics in there. I don't know whether there's any specific matter you would like to touch on briefly. Yesterday, we had an interaction with one of your colleagues, and maybe give us a hint of what we can expect from your product release calendar as well to wrap the conversation.
Thank you. So we saw a turnaround of the reverse in CPI, and again, I'm happy with the details that you are providing now. We did see a turnaround, but we saw it from different perspectives if you disaggregate the data. My concern is the widening disparity between food and non-food, and we saw a reversal, a decline in non-food of about 2 percentage points, but we saw an increase of about 1.3 percentage points from a food perspective. So now we have...
And that serves as a counterbalance.
Yes. So now we have a wider gap between food and non-food of about 13.1 percentage points. We continue to see a wider gap between inflation for items that we import relative to those that are locally produced. I've said this and I'll use this platform to say it again. We need to know the build-up cost from the farm gate to the final consumer. We need to know the build-up cost from the ports to the final consumer. And then we can appreciate the triggers. The monetary policies, to an extent, have worked. We can attribute the reverse to the stability in the exchange rate, but from the food perspective, it is not a monetary policy issue. We need to think about how we deal with our real sectors, i.e. the Ministry of Food and Agriculture, the Ministry of Trade and Industry, to see how we can address the challenges that I'm alluding to in terms of the farm gate to consumer and from the port to the consumer.
And that's a very interesting picture you paint, because once we can measure that, then we can tell from farm gate to buyer, these are likely the additional costs. From the port to a buyer or consumer, these are the likely costs. And it would make our data even more concrete, wouldn't it?
It would be.
I look forward to some of those discussions, especially as you engage the Fair Wages and Salaries Commission and as we get to productivity levels. I think oftentimes the problem is with the public sector. The private sector seems to have this pretty well covered, especially the MNCs when they come into the country. When it comes to productivity and measurements, KPIs and all of that, it seems to be pretty straightforward. But the public sector, especially in our part of the world, always is the problem. So,
but we are hoping for the private sector to make these data sets available. Because at the end of the day, we need a country-wide picture.
Have you made the approach?
As I said, we inaugurated the National Statistics Advisory Committee, and it's one of the reasons why we are calling for the Data Revolution year and policy, so that we can bring everybody on board. Private sector will not see Ghana Statistical Service as going to expose whatever they are doing, which will affect their competition and all that. So we are deepening statistical literacy in a way that people would really see the value in making data available to the service.
Prof, always, always, always so good, so insightful having you. Thank you for joining the conversation. And once more, thank you for the gifts. It's not just these 3 copies. He gave us 3 sets of each, and we're going to be sharing them to our group so that we can analyze them and also chip in where we can. Thank you so much, Prof.
Pleasure. Thank you.
And that is Professor Samuel Kobina Enim, government statistician, who joined us for this discussion. We have a lot more coming your way on the AM show. We're going to be talking education up next. All of those who have to engage in self-placement from the basic level to the secondary level. The CSSPS did not place them, but how are they going to cope? Yesterday, parents, pupils thronged the Nat Hall. What is the latest on that development? And how can we maybe smoothen the process and make it better? All of those conversations still to come on the AM show. Don't you forget, today, owing to the timing of some of our conversations, Blunt Thoughts will be coming your way much later. Do stay. We'll be right back.
From loudspeakers, coordinators shout instructions from every direction of the hall. Hundreds of students, some with their parents, have gathered here to secure placement into various senior high schools across the country. According to the Ghana Education Service, 165,601 candidates out of the total 538,399 will have to do self-placement because they did not match any of their preferred schools. Some of them have been sharing their frustration.
There's a grading system. We know that from 6 to 9, you get your first class school or A school. Then from the 10 to I think about 16 or so, you have your grade B school. That is what has been given to us. So if my child has gotten 9, she deserves to have her the A school. I mean, it's also good for you to have your child in the A school to compete with people of that class.
I didn't have a school. I graded 2, but I didn't have a school.
You didn't what?
I didn't have a school.
At all?
Yeah.
You were not placed in any school?
No.
Now you want to be placed in a school. Any particular school you would want to go?
Yeah.
What school?
Maybe Kibi Senior High or New Joab Senior High Technique.
To go and do what course?
General Arts.
General Arts.
Yes.
What's your grade?
31.
31?
Yeah.
No, it be day wage it take it. Me, I don't like body. Because body school still not have money, it dey worry you. Your doctor go make basa. Same money no dey your pocket, it go worry. So I talk to you say make take day. By all means, day no say I chop gari, you need to go chop gari.
Deputy Coordinator for Free SHS, Nana Afra Sikamensa, has been explaining the process.
Oh, we are doing it for the category B and then the category C schools. You know, those schools are a bit empty, so we need to fill up those empty spaces in those schools. So that is what we are doing here. We have students in the STEM schools, but you know, it's a new schools and it's a new school that are coming on board. So we want to increase enrollment in those schools. That is why we are doing a lot of education on the STEM schools. When you go to Pasimpe, we have a lot of facilities in those schools, but the number is less. So we need to increase enrollment in those schools. That is why we are preaching, or we are educating parents on the STEM schools here.
She has also warned parents and the general public against paying money to middlemen to influence the placement process.
The exercise we are doing here is basically free. We are not supposed to pay anything. That is why this year we have tax here, just to signify those who are starved and you are working. So when we see those in tax, they are the people you have to submit your issues to. If anybody meets you outside and tell you that you have to pay something, you shouldn't pay anything to the person. Come to the NAT, or don't talk to any security man, any cleaner at the gate, but just come to the Bediakon Hall Street. We have staff here, well trained, and then they will address all their issues for you.
Some of the parents and students who went through the process are hopeful they will secure placement before schools reopen on Monday.
As a self-placement, so we came in, they just told us what to do. The process is very simple. We wrote the schools that we want behind the placement form that we printed out. Then we wrote the schools that we wanted him to go. We wrote it behind the form, we just submitted it. So they said we should give them by Saturday or Sunday. We can go and check it. And probably maybe something good will come out. So it's good. We didn't spend that much time here. Yeah, the process is not bad. Everything is fine.
According to the academic calendar of the Ghana Education Service, all fresh students are expected to report to their various schools on Monday, February 20, 2023. But whether all these people will be placed by then, only time will tell. James Kwesi-Aveji's report, read to you.
And that is the status quo. That is the situation there. And this morning on the AM show, we get into that all-important matter. How did we even get here? Officials at the CSSPS have given us those details to grapple with. We'll be telling you about them. But joining us for a conversation on this matter, we have Benjamin Akakpo, who is PRO of the TVET service. Remember, the phone lines will be activated so you can ask every question that you have on your mind when it comes to this process. Benjamin, a very good morning to you.
Good morning, Ben. I hope everything is fine this morning.
How we go do on?
It go be, so.
It go be, eh?
It go be.
When you look at these dynamics where we find ourselves as far as the CSSPS, the CSSPS, I'm a bit shocked because it was supposed to root out a lot of these problems that we are facing. In fact, I have listened to conversations about starting the CSSPS from the standpoint of headmasters who were bombarded around this time of year. Oh, Charlie. And we all went through that system where you would see people would come. In my time, if you didn't make a certain aggregate, you knew that, if you weren't getting distinction 6 to 12, it was pretty problematic, depending on which school you wanted to go to.
Attend a certain type of school.
Exactly.
Yes.
And even when you got that certain type of school, if you wanted to read certain courses, there would be requirements.
Yes.
We tried shifting from that position, so that we had a computerized system. The human interface was practically taken away, maybe in rare situations, like the education minister said, if some bigwigs from the Presbyterian front come to you and say, we want X number of people to go to pre-sec, especially when they have done so much.
Yes.
There are ways and means of cutting all of that.
Exactly.
But now it's becoming shocking. People are paying anything between 6,000 and 20,000 Ghana cedis to get placements.
Yes.
And the system also seems not to be working. I'm just laying the foundation for the conversation so that when you take off...
the foundation.
And recently we also had that situation. A bit curious.
Yes.
Because we know that for placements into grade A schools,
yes,
only the sector minister
yes,
and the GES boss can do that. And
they
we
have
traced...
access, yes.
They have access.
Yes.
And we traced, in one of our traces, found out that the access had come from the handle of the education minister. We are told that sometimes there are people who handle them, but what exactly happened? And who got what, when, and how? What do you make of the system?
Thank you, Benjamin. A very good morning to your cherished viewers. And those of us who went to secondary school before the CSSPS came can attest to the fact that
we did, so we saw.
Yes, we saw what happened. You know, I remember when I was going to school, I went to school and I don't want to mention the name because it will create a lot of problems. My name was number 3 on the list, Ben.
I see.
When my daddy and I went back home.
Shake, some shacks like that.
Oh, of course, because my name starts with A, I mean, it was arranged alphabetically.
Ayo.
By the time we got back, you know, to pay for the prospectus and the other things, the head told us that my name had been removed because I kept too long coming back. So my space had been taken. So if Ghanaians will be honest with ourselves, we attest to the fact that things have really changed. And the CSSPS, despite the few challenges that has come with this, has come to resolve a lot of the challenges. One of the policies we have put in place, Ben, is the public equity policy. This policy is what gives 30% allocation to our brothers and sisters who attended Saito, like me. You get what I'm saying? Those days, it was extremely difficult for somebody from a public junior high school to get admission to certain type of schools.
Right. Some category A schools.
Some category. It was extremely difficult. It had to be a miracle for you to get there. But the public equity policy, which allocates 30%, so when you go to all the category A schools and you do a proper research, you will see what do you call it? Students from the public schools in the category A schools. So this has come to bring equity. This has come to bring, you know, balance. Yesterday, one gentleman he said now the thing balance. We can see our young people, you know, from the side to also getting access. So this is one of the policies that has come to resolve. Mm-hmm. Now, another policy that was in place, the protocol policy. Like you said earlier, Ben, the secondary schools we have the senior high schools we have in our system are owned by organizations, a few by governments. But even if it's owned by government, it was given by a certain traditional authority. I mean, the land on which the schools sit. They are PTAs, they are old students. So these allocations are made for people who matter in these schools. So for example, when you go to Presec Legon, you should go and see the involvement of all students in that school. So what if let's say the PTA chairman of Presec comes and says, oh, my last son had aggregate 6. Unfortunately, he was placed in a secondary school. The boy wants to go to Presec. What do we do? You can't say these people shouldn't be helped. The chief of Osu, on whose land Osu Presec is, you can't tell me that you will not give this honorable chief a quota for him to also bring people he wants into these schools. So the protocol allocation was brought to take care of some of these things that may emerge. Unfortunately, Ben, some people took advantage of this situation we brought just to help people, you know, get access to these things, these schools that we talk about. And the sad part of the whole thing is that the expose that came out sought to impugn the honorable minister, which is just unfortunate.
Why do you think that?
Oh, it's unfortunate, Ben, because when you look at the adverts that ran before the premiering of the expose.
Which one specifically are you?
I'm talking about Manasseh Azuri's
right
expose.
Right.
You see a deliberate attempt to put in the public's mind that the minister is the one behind the whole thing. Which is,
but can you look at it from that standpoint, especially when we had been speaking about the dynamics earlier?
Yes.
When it came out with, you remember there was an initial bit that spoke about the fact that people were paying, I mean, people who were cleaners and cooks and all of that were able to fix people and get all these sums of money paid. Then there was a concern about, okay, who can execute this? Then it came to the fore that it is only the sector minister and the GES director who have access to that. Then the next point was, who granted access? So merely putting it out there that in this instance, it was the education minister who granted access for us to get to the bottom of, okay, is there a handler who a lady's name has been bandied about? Is there a handler who had access, who operated on behalf of the minister and all of that? Is that targeting the minister?
I think so, but let's
You think so?
Yes, I mean, because look, the minister is the Minister of Education. Let's even say the protocol allotments just for politicians. Let's assume, without admitting that that's what there's a member of parliament who has about 236 colleagues, members of parliament. So let's say I'm the minister, Ben, you are the colleague MP. You go to your constituency, and 5 young men come with 5 sheets and say, these are our kids. We want them admission in Wesley Girls and PSEC. You pick them up, bring it to your colleague, the Honorable Minister of Education, and say, oh, Minister, can you help me with some of these protocol allocations? So why not? What grade did they make? Okay, they make the cut points. Let me help them. What would the minister do to know that the constituents who brought the result slips or the placement slips to you had gone to take money from people? How would the one handling the minister's account verify that Akwesi Abuaje had paid 20,000 Ghana cedis to somebody to get placement? It's so impossible. You get what I'm saying? Especially given the circumstances under which the pressure that comes with the children being in a hurry to go to school. And the minister's wish is that every child must go to school. So to impugn all this on the minister and say, oh, the minister knows something about it, it's his account and all that, for me is just malicious to say the least. But
you would also bear witness, that scenario you painted about the presentation of about 5 people and not knowing, not having any foreknowledge of whether sums of money had traded hands and all of that. It's a perfect scenario. It could be, but it could also be that something else happened. I mean, so you're assuming, without confirming, that as far as those at the helm are concerned, whether it is someone handling on behalf of the minister or otherwise, it cannot be that they also may have benefited in certain ways. We don't know that.
We know that.
We don't know.
How do you know we don't? If they were, no, I mean,
do you know?
I know the work Manasseh Azuri does. If Manasseh Azuri knew that any of the people close to the minister are taking money, Manasseh would have brought it out by now. You get what I'm saying? He was able to apprehend a cleaner. Is he a cleaner or a security person who had, been involved in some of these things? So how, Ben, let's be honest. Sometimes the progress and the positive aspects of the things that we have chalked at the ministry is not trumpeted. And
I admit sometimes that happens.
I mean, the sort of work this honorable minister has put in, especially when it comes to the STEM education, TVET education.
Why did when you started, I just knew you'd go there.
Oh, I have to. It's unprecedented.
Right.
We have not seen such infrastructure and even the policy behind, the brain behind, it's just out of this world. But those things are not said. The next time we see an agenda of a smear campaign against the minister, an agenda of a smear campaign against the minister has done this. Then let's
the only problem I have when this sort of approach is brought to bear, it reminds me of our Ghana Schools of Shame documentary and what we deemed the unfortunate reaction of the sector minister. Because the very good things you're speaking of, the STEM bits, in fact, recently, those that have been inaugurated and all of that, we trumpet them. Unless someone is saying they don't see us talk about them,
you talk about
harp on them, have discussions on them about how we can make the most out
Not
of them. So when we bring out the negatives, and all of a sudden, especially like the one we did, Ghana Schools of Shame,
Yes.
Pandai District,
Yes.
7,000 deficit in terms of desks. I'm sure you watched the documentary.
Yes, we
you
did.
saw what some of the
Yes.
children, things that we didn't have to go through and wouldn't want our children to go
That's
through.
true.
When you highlight that and you get the sort of response that we got,
Yes.
it becomes a bit problematic.
You see, Ben.
So I get the picture you're painting,
Yeah,
but
of course.
credit is
What I'm
due
saying-
where it is.
Of course. Trumpeting it. You talk about it casually. Oh, yes.
Casually.
STEM schools, then that's it. Some 3 minutes, and then you can. But when it comes to the negative aspects of the stories, in fact, when I'm watching you from home, I see the happiness, the enthusiasm. It's like, Charlie, we got them. This is it.
Really?
Oh, come on. Maybe sometimes you also watch yourself.
Really?
And it tells that, you see,
So that's how you feel from watching from back home, that when we do these
take the
documentaries,
positives. We are
the
happy,
documentaries and the
we are
rest.
happy about some of the things you do. We are happy about it. Brings, you see, we have district officers, people around doing that, but sometimes just one lens can capture what 1,000 eyes can see, and we are happy about. Oh, of course, we are happy about some of these things, but we are also concerned about sometimes the motive behind it, and sometimes the personalization of the matter to make it look as if the honourable minister is not performing. One of these days, we will catalog the achievements of the minister in his 3 years at the helm of affairs. And then you see the tremendous, no other minister in the Republic of Ghana has done that. And so the school placement issue is one of them. And the Honorable Minister has assured the public of, you play some sound bites. Yesterday I saw your people there, you know, scrambling around for negative news. Unfortunately,
when you say your people, media people,
they came around.
So you see, but you see,
yes, they came around. Let me finish.
This is my problem as well.
Let me finish.
You seem to have a perception, a mindset
No,
already from the way you are coming.
I'm a journalist myself.
I mean, they are always trying.
They told me. I spoke with some of them. Some of them. Some of them are my colleagues from school. Actually, I said, I said, this is it. The seating agreement was perfect. The parents were, within 2 minutes, you go through the process. Okay. Some before they exited the hall had notifications that their placement had been done. Okay. You get what I'm saying? So it's a smooth. But let's not forget that this is a human institution. Errors will come. You remember some time ago, people massed up at the, what do you call it?
Black Star Square.
The Independence Square. Since then, have you seen such a situation again? And if you be very honest with yourself, issues of school placement is gradually dwindling. The negative stories around school placement is gradually dwindling. If not for this expose, we would have had a school placement that no one would have even heard about because the systems are working. The people there will attest to the fact that those of you see, unscrupulous people in Ghana, people will always be lingering around for opportunities to be corrupt. That's why a
system must ensure that the possibility of access to same is as minimal as possible.
I agree with you 100%, and that's why we are happy.
Because we know that one in any human institution, it's not just Ghana, it's everywhere.
Everywhere.
Opportunity makes the thief, right?
People
so if the opportunities are there, yes, some Konimo will want to take advantage of it.
And I'm happy you have mentioned that. That's notwithstanding, the ministry, even before the expose came, heard rumors about things like that. We had people come to report to us. In fact, I called one of your reporters when I personally caught one of the guys last year.
When you say one of the guys,
who were
a Goro boy or something,
Goro
trying to benefit from the process.
Yes.
Okay.
Because I realized that people mass up at the place by 6 a.m.
Wow.
Hoping to catch the first seat so that they can finish quickly and go. And we report at the place 7:38. So by the time we get there, these guys will go around, assure the people of placement, take money from before we even arrive. So when I'm swamped, I'm behind the desk. You saw the story. I'm behind the desk. About 200 people are waiting to come. I won't have the time to ask you, Obiaji Usika, is somebody taking money from you? I said, where do you want to go? Also Presec. I write it, I put it down. At the end of the day, I send all the things to the IT people. They work on it.
So if someone has taken money in your name, you probably wouldn't know.
You don't even have the time to know. Your reporter should take the sort of pressure. From here, I'm going straight to the placement. It's pressure from You can't even pay calls because the people on you, mothers are crying, people are wailing.
And there's quite a chunk of people you have to deal with, 165,000.
You can
from different places. Is it that all of them are converging here or different?
They are supposed,
different places
in all the 60 regions,
16
we have centers. But in Ghana, people think everything works in Accra. So for example, yesterday we had somebody from Sefi also come all the way. She told me she had to come and sleep at the place. I saw these are issues you are concerned about.
Right.
So I won't even ask the woman. In fact, somebody said, hey, Manche, Obeya Oshenu, for all you know, she's the one who is investigating people. So I said, no. So some of these things happen. They come and you are so fixated in solving the problem. You are so fixated in getting people go to school, and that's our goal.
That's your joy, right?
To see the young people go to school. Some of them you see them later in their schools. You go and visit. Say, oh, this is a gentleman we spoke to, and that's our joy. Yeah. But but Ben, have you asked yourself why would somebody decide that officials are in the hall placing people, and you decide that you want to deal with a cleaner outside the hall? Don't you think these people should?
Maybe the person also doesn't even know this is a cleaner.
But they were all in.
But
they were all in there.
The person assumes, well, the person is here, the person has connections, and the people actually did the job. That's the whole thing. The job was done.
Yes, that is what the internal investigations, how they manage. You see, but there are a lot of loopholes, like I've told you. Last year, the minister was in his office himself because there were people with special cases. I remember one, the lady had grade 06. Wanted Wesley girls badly. So when the mother brought...
And that's where it becomes problematic sometimes. My daughter has scored 6. Why is she not getting Wesley girls? But there are different dynamics. And sometimes they even go down to looking at your percentages, striking the averages. I know.
Yes. A lot goes in. First is the grade. So if you had grade 6, I had grade 6. The computer will put all of us in the basket. Then we have the raw score. So if I had 361 and you had 340, the computer will pick me ahead of you. Yeah. So on the face value, you all had a grade 6. Like I saw in your...
We may have even had all A's, but there's still going to be a further discrimination.
A tiebreaker, yes. So that's what happens. And we've spent so much time trying to explain to the public that these are the issues. Don't be in a rush. So for example, yesterday someone came to me and said, my nephew who attended Site 2 had a grade 17 is in Achimota School. Why am I with grade 8 and I'm not there? So I explained to them that, look, that's the public. This is not shrouded in secrecy. We've made it public that, look, our brothers and sisters in the public schools are going to be given 30%
allocation.
And that is not going to change. To bring the balance, to bring that equity into the system, we are going to continue to do it.
In some 10, 12 minutes, we'll be activating the phone line so we can pick your calls on some of these all-important matters to know what you are thinking about this system. Are you an affected parent? Are you an affected student or pupil? How do you feel about the process? Yesterday, we had day 1, right?
Yeah.
At the Nat Hall. What if you went through the process, for example? We'd like to know, what was the process like? Is it as Manche is painting for us? And if it went that seamlessly, come, share with us. If you faced any problems, call, share with us. Let us know what is on your mind. And if you have any suggestions about how we can better the process as well, let us also hear from you. So we are looking at these dynamics now. Just to go back briefly to the point you are making, before we look at the numbers and what the plan is to ensure that all of them are placed. I remember back in school, in Bishop Herman, you would attest to the fact that some of our brothers who came from certain communities, some of them deprived, they may have come with aggregates that were not so high. But given the opportunity and access to the logistics and all of that, all of a sudden you saw them performing at a much higher rate. Some people were studying with lanterns, Bobo. Yes. Now they had access to light and they would study like crazy. There is that scenario.
Yes.
But I also remember recently interacting with Nana Oye Bampo Ado.
Yes.
I'm sure you know her, former gender minister. Yeah. And she also said that, no, we should stick to qualification. If you qualify, you get in here. So do you want to make a Bishop Herman? Do you want to make a Wesley Girls? Do you want to make a Presec? Do you want to make an Infansipim, an Opokuwari? You need to meet certain metrics. And then you get in. The segregation must be clear, but of course, we can find other means, but the way it's being handled is problematic. How do you respond to that? Very briefly so that we can get to the numbers.
I think, you see, sometimes in Ghana, we are happy about segregation. And sometimes the well-to-do people in society are very uncomfortable.
But there are positives and negatives to segregation.
Yes,
it's not all negative.
Yes, I agree. But in this instance, it's very negative. I mean, when the children, our young siblings start going to school, one of the things we also do is to monitor their process to ensure whatever is going through, they are going through the school is smooth and there are no issues and all of that. You see the sense of despisement towards some of these people. So, for example, the guy has come and is dressed in a certain way, and the rich people have separated themselves. Ben, let me use this opportunity to appeal to middle class people that look. Some of these people have not had the opportunities that we have had, and it's a wish of the president that the boy from Tumu can also come to Achimota. Last year, I saw a report on your channel where a young lady in Tamale was coming to Achimota school, and it was her first time ever in Accra. You should see the excitement written on her face. And these are the opportunities we should give to young people to also make, some of these grade A schools. So this suggestion, I beg to differ from the honorable
former gender
minister. Yes. Yes, people should perform. And like we rightly said, some of these people who come from the deprived communities with not so good grades, in quotes, come and outshine a lot of. I don't want to mention it.
No, it happens.
A lot of the people who
even at the university level. Sometimes you see them coming from deprived schools. You know, the universities like my alma mater, the University of Ghana, also has systems of checks and balances to bring in. And you see some of them. In fact, you will see those from Gehe and with a 6 to 10, and some of these people will come with 14, but they'll whip them.
I have just one shirt and one trouser, but he's always top of the class. You see what I'm saying? They recently ended the science and maths quiz. If I tell you the amount of students who came from public schools, you'll be surprised. And in my own estimate,
I don't think I would be, because we host it right here, so we are fully aware.
Yes. Something from schools that you never saw, schools in the Western region, they go to the grade A schools, and all of a sudden they are topping the class. I know one lady, grade 17, she went to her school, top of the class. I think she was part of the Greater Accra. So she just blew everything. Her WASI results came. She wrote WASI twice. The Novdek one when she was in Form 2, and then the school WASI.
Right.
Same grades. Blew everything.
So that point firmly made. We need these checks and balances, but at the same time, we're trying to create a society where we can give opportunities. Maybe this would not just fall under inequality, going back to the discussion I had with the Ghana Statistical Service boss, but inequity and how to find those checks and balances. Maybe reverse discrimination in certain ways. But I want us now to look at the numbers.
Yes.
547,329 candidates.
Yes.
And then who sat the examination, and then the numbers that qualified. 372,780 candidates being automatically placed in school. That left a deficit of about 164,000.
65,600.
That's why I said just about. Yeah. When you look at the numbers, have we been able, having operated the CSSPS over time, have we been able to minimize the numbers that would require self-placement? I mean, because that in itself creates another issue, a problem, so to speak. Have we been able to deal with that, even before we talk about the numbers and how to get rid of them?
So the system is such that, because it's a computerized system, we don't want to put the children in schools that they have not chosen. So you have the option to choose 6 schools. Your choices. So if after all the criteria we use in selecting schools for you, you don't meet any of them. So for example, I have aggregate 15. I choose my first choice as Wesley Girls. I want to do science. The computer places us, and I'm unable to make the cut. The computer automatically puts me in the box of my second choice. I go and compete with all the people in the second choice. I'm unable to make the cut.
Just my apologies for doing this, but we are doing this because of our viewers, the people who are watching us, eagerly watching us. Let me quickly do this, and then I'll let you make your point. My apologies for that. We have Isaac from Sunyani joining the conversation. Isaac, good morning. Hello, Isaac.
Yeah.
Good morning.
Good morning. Good morning. Good morning.
I would just say this, for all of you who are watching,
Hello,
who may be
good
thinking
morning.
of watching, just hold on for me,
I'm
Isaac.
Isaac calling from Sunyani.
Isaac, please hold on for me. Don't watch the television and be using your phone. There will be a time lag. So just listen to me on your phone. And please, when you call, just go straight to the point. We don't have too much time to expend. Isaac, go ahead.
Okay. Why is it that the government has given privileges to the public schools, and that of the private schools, they are saying they are giving them 30%. For example, they are all going to the same JSS, and we have well-trained teachers in the private school, the public schools.
Right.
Going to the private schools, the private schools are being taught by some of these secondary school dropouts or secondary school leavers. Yes, still, we have given 30% privileges to the public school, and that of the and they are all competing on the same paper.
Right, Isaac, point made. Thank you so much for sharing your thoughts. So he is saying that why give them extra privileges when in fact they are all at the same level, studying the same, syllabus or curriculum and all of that. What's your answer?
It's called a public equity policy.
Okay.
And I explained earlier that this is to ensure that there's balance in the system. We also acknowledge that the society in which we live in, the fingers are not equal. You can't tell me now that the sort of treatment, training, opportunities that exist in the private schools are similar to what we have in the public schools. Now you have well-to-do people, middle-class people who can afford, who have sent their children to have some of these extra. You can't have the same in my hometown in Ningo. You can't have the same. You can't have the same at Rara. You can't have the same at Bumbugu Yoyo. So there are people who are naturally or environmentally underprivileged. I went to the Western North region, and there was a school inside a cocoa farm. So somebody who attends a school in a cocoa farm, and the other who is at one of these top schools, you can't tell me that the situation is the same. Some of them don't even have electricity to study. So if the guy without all these facilities is able to make, let's say, grade 17, and we bring a public equity policy that says that, look, let's give these people the opportunity, 30%. We are not saying everything. And they are also Ghanaians to start with.
Right.
Right. They are not foreigners we are bringing in. They are people who are already in the basket. We are saying, given their circumstances, given the challenges they go through to learn. Akakpo, when I was in Odingo DAGHS,
in fact, I've worked in the primary area before.
Yes,
I remember there was this school on the stretch. I think they use yellow and green. And sometimes when you see the dynamics,
the difference
it's
is
not,
I had to
not
carry,
easy.
I had to carry my desk for my house at Awusavu straight to the school. That's about 2 kilometers walk. The one in the private school, probably the father had just put him in the SUV and driven him or her straight into the school. So the opportunities are not the same. So public equity, that's why it's equity. We are not trying to equalize. We are trying to bring a balance into the system. So Isaac, please bear with us.
Let's hear from Portia, who's here in Accra. Portia, good morning.
I think it's a personal question. My daughter...
Portia, I'd appreciate it if you could just speak up a little for me.
Okay. My daughter went to Kaneshi Awudumaya 1 JSS.
Okay.
Hello?
Yes, please go ahead.
She had Agri 10. She chose Western Girls, Agri, and then Ghana National. She didn't have any of her choice. They gave her her fourth choice. She wanted to do science. So now we are at the first school. We don't know what to do. They gave her diaspora girls, and they don't do science. We went to NASCO, and they didn't give us anything. So we don't know what to do. Because the diaspora girls don't do science. They do general art and business. So we went there. We couldn't get anything to do. So I was calling to find out what we can do with this situation.
Portia, thank you for sharing your concern with us. Over to you, Manje.
Now, Portia, first of all, we didn't give your daughter diaspora girls. Your daughter chose diaspora girls.
So that was one of the options, maybe the last option, the sixth option?
She said fourth choice.
Fourth option.
Right. So when they said they gave it's as if the daughter didn't like that school.
But I think she's saying they gave because she had other options, which she was not.
No, but that's where she fell. But I understand her situation. She's using the public equity. But if you have attended a public school and had made a grade 10, she thinks at least a grade 10. So there's a special case. And
do you think something can be done for her?
Oh, of course. Last year, I was giving you an example. A lady from, I think, the Eastern region also. The mother brought her to the minister and made a case that, Minister, you talked about public equity policy. My daughter has made grade 13. She wants to go to, I think, in Fancyman or so. The minister graciously asked that the daughter be put there because to have grade 13 in a public school,
so those are some of the concessions that are made.
Yes, yes.
Let's hear from Samuel in Bolga. Sam, good morning.
Good morning.
Please go ahead with your thoughts, Sam.
Hello?
Please go ahead, Sam.
Okay, all right. Mine is a suggestion, or better, we try to understand the system better.
Okay.
Why can't we have the placement system in such a way that, the less endowed schools, in those places where they cannot make it the aggregate, because we know we are in Ghana, we all know that these aggregates and stuff that people buy. Of course, they buy their poor and they get it. So once you get to the university, all these things are exposed. But there are people from the villages who might get grade 16, grade 17, and might not get that grade A school. Meanwhile, that person is as brilliant as the person who is getting the grade 6, or even sometimes better. How can't we make it in such a way that at least we have some portion from those less endowed schools, mixed around, so that we cannot do it all 100%, but at least you are giving opportunity to those people to also access the grade A schools.
Thank you, Sam.
That's my thought.
Thank you, Sam from Bolga. But I think that's exactly what...
That's what... so you see that they are conflicting. And these policies were brought in based on research we did. And some of these concerns someone has just raised came up, especially up north. They said, look, all we ask for is that let our brothers and sisters in the public schools also have access. So that's what birthed these policies.
And especially, I think I was making mention of it to the government statistician, especially with the Northern Belt. I feel it's particularly problematic. We've not been fair to those in the Northern Belt of the country, right from pre-independence to independence. You remember educational issues and how they had been practically left out at a point, and it's simmered all through the decades. We are 60, almost 66, and we are it's a fact you can't deny. I'm not. So it is good. It is good that we give some concessions in that way to allow them to catch up.
It's helping. It has changed the face of the public schools. Now the young people are aware that a little bit of effort in the academics, and they'll find themselves. Those days, one of the things that discourage them, that's, look, no matter what you do, you are not going to make it.
You will not make it.
You will find yourself in one of the local schools around. So it's like, well, that's what it has been. But this policy has been a game changer. It has changed the dynamics, and visit some of the public schools. Of course, not schools of shame. This should be schools of fame, and see how good some of these public schools. And let's also commend the teachers in these public schools giving extra. I met one of the teachers who was preparing, I think, about 30 or 32 students, and at dusk around 4, she had gone to freshen up to go back to school with the young people for free. She said sometimes she even gives them the mash cake. What do you call it? Ice cream cake.
Ice cream cake.
Yes.
Right.
So that just to motivate the young people to come, not to go to the fast, but come for extra tutor for free. So let's commend the teachers in the public schools who are also doing a tremendous job to make sure our young people do well in school and have access to the grade A schools.
Let's pick a caller from Hacho. Odote. Odote, a very good morning to you.
Yes, good morning.
Good morning, sir.
Yeah, I'm a pensioner, and my pension baby has worked so hard.
Right.
And got aggregate 9.
Aggregate 9?
Aggregate 9, yes.
Which school?
She had 1 in mathematics, 1 in science, and 1 in English, and then aggregate 9.
Which school did she attend?
Oh, she went to Sandys. It's a private school near my place.
Okay.
And they did not even give her the first choice, second choice, third choice. They give her 4th choice in the Volta region, Agbakope.
I see.
So she's so down. She hasn't even eaten since she had that information. She worked very, very hard. I mean, you can imagine.
Wow, that must be frustrating. What are the schools she chose? Her first three options. Which schools were they?
She chose Aburi Girls, Mountain Methodist Girls, Achimota.
So there's Abugis and there's what?
Abugis and then the Megis, Methodist Girls.
Mm-hmm.
And then the Agri Memorial.
Agri Memorial.
And
wow, that is quite a. Okay, but have you gone for? So she was given her fourth choice. So for her, she doesn't need self-placement. She was given her fourth choice, but yours is disappointment with the system.
Yes, exactly. Because I mean, the grade 9, I don't see how she couldn't, get into.
There are considerations, but what program did she want to read?
She wants to do science, general science.
General science.
Yeah, she wants to be a aircraft pilot and this is so she really working hard to become a pilot and an aircraft engineer. You see,
interesting situation. Odote, thank you so much. At least I think we have a full grasp of it. We want to leave the minutes left so we can pick a lot more callers. This is another tricky situation.
Yes, it is. So my brother Odote can come to the NAT hall and all these issues. That's why we are at the NAT hall.
Okay.
To resolve. So the child shouldn't be in despair. She shouldn't worry. She should feel free, eat. Just come to the NAT hall and his grievances will be resolved.
Odote, so if you're watching us, that is the conclusion. Manche says, just come to the NAT hall. You could do so today. I mean, if...
We are there now.
They are there now. And likely you could, I don't want to say go and look for him.
No, you don't have to look for me.
But you could speak to any of those involved and they would see what can be done. We have Omaru in Ejura. Omaru, good morning. Please go straight to the point. Shoot.
Okay, good morning, sir.
Umaru, please go ahead.
All right, sir. Please, I have a ward who had his last choice. I had a ward who had his last choice, but the issue is that he wants a technical school. In fact, all the 5 choices that he made are all technical schools. But the last one, because he has to choose a school within his own jurisdiction, he chose that one. So the point is that you want him to get the technical school because that's where he wants to go.
But did he choose a technical school?
Yeah, all the 5 schools that he chose, the 5 schools that he chose are all technical schools.
So the 6th one was not a technical school?
Exactly.
And that's the one he got?
Yeah.
What was the aggregate?
He had 23.
23. Which school?
Edraman Senior High.
Edraman Senior High. All right, thank you, Umaru. Edraman Senior High, I think this would be one of the public institutions.
Yes, yes. And he wants to go to a technical school.
That's where he has gone.
Umaru should just go to the, what do you call it? The regional office, the GES regional office, and just tell them what his problem is. They will immediately effect the changes for him.
GES regional office. Umaru, if you are listening, GES regional office.
Just go there. There are people there to see to his challenge. You should just tell them the technical school, is it a he or a she?
I think it's a he.
Yes. Just go there. Tell them if there's still vacancy in those schools, they will still, but there are about 212 TVET schools, so it shouldn't be a problem at all.
Okay. We still have a few more minutes, about 2 or 3 minutes. If you have any concerns, you can share them with us. We have another caller shortly. After I take this call, I want us to look at how you're going to, what the plan is to clear, Manche, to clear this backlog of 165,000 across the regions, but I know the focus is on the Greater Accra region.
Yes.
And how much time you've given yourself, because the students are already, getting into school. It's pretty frustrating for those who haven't made it, what the plan is. We had a caller, Peter from Tamale. Hello, Peter.
Hello.
Peter, we can hear you loud and clear. Please go ahead, briefly.
Okay, yeah, my name is Peter from Tamale. My niece had aggregate. Yes, my name is Peter from Tamale.
My niece had aggregate 28, and she has not been placed in any of her choices, even the last
aggregate what?
She chose.
28.
And the self-placements available are all outside Tamale, and they are day schools also.
So the self-placement options are
how
outside Tamale and they are day schools. All right. Peter, thank you very much for sharing your thoughts with us. So you see his concern. Maybe Tamale, depending on where the person is in Tamale, it could be deprived or not. It could be, you know, but then at the same time, the placements that are, the options are outside Tamale. And that could also pose constraints, finances, access and all of that. What would you prefer for Peter?
So Peter should just go to the GES office.
Regional
office. The officers there ready to listen to Peter and his problems will be solved. I want to let the public know that we are here for them. Their problems are what we have set up the solution centers to resolve. So there should be no panic at all. So Peter, right from here, just walk straight to the GES office in Tamale. Tell them your problem and it will be resolved. And the reopening date has been set for 20th, but we still have a week period to orientation and all that. So 27th is where the GS director has said that classes will officially begin. So let them not be any panic. Until the last person goes to school, we are not leaving the solution center at NATO and all the 16 regions. We are there for them. They should just be focused. They should just not panic. Come and your problems will be resolved. There are so many schools in Ghana, and every ward will have an opportunity to.
So are you giving a guarantee right here that these 165,000 by the 27th, when classes are set to begin, all of them would have got placements?
I can't give that assurance. However, we are there all the time too. There's also a call center. So Peter and all the other people can decide to just call the call center and their details will be taken and it will be worked on for them, if I can quickly. So the number is 0308 25 8001.
0308
25 8001.
All right. I think we'd have to put that number on the screen so that people
they can call the call center.
That's the call center, for what? The GES?
Or a CSSPS call center. So whether you want a TVET school, a GES school, whatever school you want to go, you just call the call center. Whether you want to change from day to boarding, from boarding to day, any challenge you have at all, when you call, they will take your details and then forward it to the IT team to work on it for you.
So 0308 25 8001. 0308 25 8001. Let's take Evans from Sampa. Good morning, Evans.
Good morning, sir.
What are your concerns, please?
It's a suggestion, though. I think parents should really be educated on the schools of choice. Because some happened to me. In my case, my parents, my dad made me choose a school, which was actually a hostel. But later, I had that school as a second choice, and he also said because it's a hostel school, he wouldn't allow me to go. But he knew. So I think when some of the parents are educated on such matters with regards to selecting schools, you don't choose schools you don't want for your child, because some of them called with fourth choice, which they choose, and still that has been a problem. So I think if such issues could be addressed with the parents before selection of the school, some of these problems can be solved. And that is my suggestion. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing your thoughts. As far as the TVET schools, though, I know, there's a push to get more people because no economy builds. I always mention Germany, Switzerland, wherever. They build on their technical, skilled people, not so much on those who are sitting in offices doing other things. What's the arrangement when it comes to TVET at this level, transitioning to the secondary level?
Yes, so before they chose the schools, before the school selection process, we went around the country and encouraged parents that this is the way to go. There are 212 TVET institutions dotted around the country, well equipped with state-of-the-art equipment. And we've recruited more trainers.
The other day, the CTVET boss came and,
he told you all of that, right?
You see how you didn't know that.
I watched.
And
thank you very much for
when we do those ones.
No, we appreciate it. Yes, so we are encouraging parents, especially those who have had grammar schools now. In fact, it's very easy to change from a grammar school to a TVET school. So I'm encouraging them that this is the way to go. We have very good programs for their kids. And the good thing about TVET is that whilst even the young man or young woman is in school, they can begin to make some money for themselves and fend for themselves throughout their education in the TVET school. So we are encouraging parents. It's all the same. We are all at the CSSPS center, the same call. Just tell them, I had a grammar school, but I want to change to a TVET school. You mentioned the school you want. If there is still vacancy, your ward will be placed there as soon as possible.
All right. I think we'll be concluding the conversation shortly, but we have Pawili joining us from Kintampo, and then maybe we'll take your reaction and your final comments. Pawili, good morning. Hello, Pawili.
Yeah, Ben, good morning.
Good morning, oh. What are your thoughts for us?
Yeah, so my mind is just a little worried. You know, these kids were registered by either the schools or in some regions, you have districts where they have selected ICT coordinators to assist. So I'm thinking, why is GS not thinking of using those ICT coordinators at the district offices? So a child wouldn't travel from Ijuaman to Kumasi just to have a placement.
Right.
Look at the cost. The parents live there where they should have been selling and putting the kids around, but the children are registered in their district. So, Mr. Manche, assuming you are a field officer, you wouldn't have been at this center. You would have been on the field. So I'm thinking, let's distribute work, and everybody is free. That's my first point. Then the CSSPS, I don't know. You know what happens then? Before the schools, the students select schools, after they finish exam, they've gone home, then they start putting flyers about how to select school, but the kids are not even in school. They finish exams, some have gone back to wherever they are coming from, so the heads will have to be contacting parents to mention schools. Why can't we do this? The education, when the kids are in school. So if they had completed, the parents can still come back with their kids and select school, and all these problems wouldn't have been happening because you say, parents, they gave me school, but they chose their school. But there's something that last year, they brought a situation where you select school A, the school is in category of other schools. If you opt in, it means that if you don't miss your school A, then you are likely to give you all the other schools or any of the other schools in that category that you have selected.
Right.
Most parents didn't understand. They were choosing yes. They don't even know the schools in that group. And these are the reasons why I think the GES, the CSPS, it should be up and doing. Let the education start way ahead. If you look at it, placement is coming out, and then they are now putting isolation centers.
Right.
I think let's be working ahead of time.
Thank you for sharing your thoughts. That'll be our final caller on this beat, at least as far as this conversation is concerned. Should we activate the phone lines later, you could chip in again. But Manje, so
Yes,
your reaction to this, and then the final plan as far as
I think the suggestions are welcome. The district officers are not left out of this. Yes, but where you can have resolution as quickly as possible, but you can still go to your district. The district officers are there. They work with the senior high schools. They are there. The Free SHS Secretariat is there. They can always walk into those offices. But the assurance is that every child will go to school, and they shouldn't even bother themselves to go to the district offices. That's why I've given the call center number. When they call, it's coming. It's coming straight to the office in Accra. They'll take their details and then it's worked on. They don't even have to come to Nat Hall because we said about 50 people are sitting there ready to receive their complaints and all that. So if you are listening to me, take advantage of the call center numbers that we have scheduled. I think it's displayed on the screen. If you just call, people will listen to them, take their complaints, and whatever grievances they have will be dealt with.
Manje, any final words, or is that it?
Yes, just to assure them that this is a very free, transparent process. Nobody should be forced to pay any monies. When you go to the Nat Hall, the officers in charge are on tags. You see them with their tags and their names boldly written on it. You don't have to deal with any security person, any cleaner, nobody. If you don't want the burden of coming to the Nat Hall, the phone lines are open 24/7. Just call 0308 258001 and your concerns will be addressed.
Thank you so much for having joined us this morning. It's been a lot of education, and we can only wish you the very best as you go through this process with the 165,000 plus.
Thank you very much.
Manchakwete is PRO of the TVET service, and he joined us here for a conversation. Do stay with us, because after this, I'm going to be serving you my blunt thoughts. You know how I do it. Hot every Friday morning. And right after that, should we have the time, we'll take more interactivity from you on the other issues we've been discussing. Do stay with us on the AM show. We'll be right back. Welcome back. I told you about the exigencies that forced us to bring blunt thoughts to the end of the show, but here it is. And today I've titled it, Tightening the Noose and Turning the Screw, the Ordeal of the Ordinary Ghanaian. Ghana, I've become very blasé with this administration, and justifiably so. I have been and continue to be unimpressed with this administration's style of leadership, which I have termed as misleadership, precisely because those at post have shown me time and again that promises, by and large, will not be kept, and commitments to the people are very often no more than lip service. I was the host of an Africa Center for Economic Transformation event very recently, and I listened keenly to officials from the National Development Planning Commission and their counterparts in India and Kenya. We have great intellectuals who can aid the transformation of our country. The problem, more often than not, is our political leaders. In other jurisdictions, technocrats pull the strings of development. Politicians only facilitate the process through the release of funds and all that. Over here, the reverse is true, because most of our politicians are so bloody corrupt and strive to employ every avenue to line their pockets. Look at the ditch our economy has ended up in. And the Finance Minister, Ken Ofori-Atta's comments concerning senior citizens and all of us helping him to help us. How did he help us, I ask? By dumping us in this abyss of misfortune? Is that how he did it? Wow. Just how insulting can our misleaders be? Mr. Ken Ofori-Atta, if you could have done what the pensioners were calling on you to do, why did you hold on and make our senior citizens go through hell before budging? Especially when you're a senior citizen yourself. Why? They didn't have to take their coming to picket, beg, and make themselves dirty, so to speak, before you would listen. Did you need the Speaker of Parliament's stinging words, leave pensioner board holders alone, before you would listen to the voice of reason? Did you? But this comes as no surprise. After all, did the President's cousin, Gabi Asare-Otredako, not add insult to injury by vilifying senior citizens partaking in the picketing of the Finance Ministry? Hold for me, let me go through some of these slides, even before we get to those comments shared on Twitter by Gabi. Our Finance Minister, when senior citizens were picketing, said, "Your continuous picketing over DDEP unnecessary." That was what our Finance Minister had to say to the pensioners. Really, there is no reason for us to be sitting here because that assurance has been given on paper. Now you look at the DDEP and Ken Ofori-Atta's claims that he had exempted pension bondholders. That was just from yesterday. And then you come to what the President's cousin had to say. Interesting. For a former CJ to take up a noble cause such as she did, but at such late hour when all was done, and for all that, I'll just quickly get to that for you. So for a former CJ to take up a noble cause such as she did, but at such late hour when all was done, and for all that publicity, she owed it to herself and her social standing to have understood the issues far better than what she exhibited last Friday. She is bigger than that. The response of the Chief Justice, insults? Insults are the weapon of the pin-brained, or pea-brained if you like. I'm not going to trade words with pin-brains. I am sorry. Gabi Otredako can call me paranoid. I don't care. We are talking about human beings. We are talking about people who have served this country and have served well and served hard, not easy service. Now you get to the next point about the final results, and that has created some confusion in the minds of people. Let's break it down. The bonds eligible for exchange in billions of cedis. The initial target was 137 billion. The revised target was 132 billion. The second revised target hit 130 billion. And now with the third revision, we're looking at 97.7 billion. But what are the dynamics? You look at the eligible outstanding principals when you're looking at we're talking about the Government of Ghana, ESLA, and the Dachi. Eligible outstanding principals for the Government of Ghana, 126.1 billion Ghana cedis. Those for the eligible outstanding principals, 121.4 billion. And it follows all the way through to the end. When you do the sum total, we'll get there. ESLA, 8.4 billion running through, and then Dachi, 2.8 billion, now becoming 2.6 billion, and eventually 1.4 billion. You look at the total there, it gives you 38.3 billion. Now, the outstanding principal amounts presented in this press release differ from the outstanding principal amounts in the exchange memorandum because they have been adjusted to deduct. Amounts of eligible bonds held by persons that were not eligible bondholders and that were not eligible to participate in the exchange, and B, amounts held by persons that, following the announcement of the exchange, converted their eligible bonds to treasury bills. I hope that is creating the understanding. Now, there have been a lot of theories. Let's take a look at some of them. The Bank of Ghana bought dollars from the private sector through swaps, and the banks covered by buying bonds. That's one theory. The other one, the banks told the Bank of Ghana that if they touch those bonds, the swaps will need to be unraveled, and Bank of Ghana will need to pay them back their dollars. And there are also contractors holding bonds connected to some government liability exposures and restructuring those amounts to double default. So those were the points to be made. In the midst of all this, the promising spree continues. We say Agenda 111, and we're going to construct all these hospitals. While we have so many hospitals that are in sore need of refurbishing work. Recently, Ghana4, I read the heartbreaking story of a hospital facility in the Sandema area. That hospital is in the Builsa North municipality in the Upper East region, which is in dire need of renovation to fit its status as a referral center in that municipality. The Builsa North municipality, by the way, has a population of 56,571. Now, during a visit, it was observed that the paint on the walls of this facility had peeled off. Visible cracks on them, most of the louver blades were off. The wire mesh and doors of the wards had been torn off, leaving patients in the wards and staff to the mercy of the weather and reptiles. In fact, staff there say they recently killed a snake at the children's ward. Children's ward! A snake. In fact, if nurses on duty that day had not seen the snake on time, it probably could have bitten anyone at the ward. That is what one of these nurses said. I guess we are just happy as misleaders to slap our name tags on projects and claim we've done something, when in fact all we've done is give a project a name. For how many years have we touted Agenda 111? How many hospitals have we actually constructed? Do you know that? In the meantime, this hospital is playing host to reptiles, snakes in the children's ward of all places. This 93-year-old hospital, established in 1930 to cater for the health needs of residents, was upgraded in 1970 to a health center and subsequently to a district hospital in 1992. And since that time, there has been no renovation till date. We've also been talking about school structures in a rather bad shape lately. You recall our Ghana Schools of Shame documentary, right? Well, now we know students of the Etimetim, Mase, RC Primary and Junior High School in the Efija Kwabre South District of the Ashanti region are asking government to fix their dilapidated structures that they learn in. The students, numbering more than 400, say they are scared to sit and learn under their shaky classroom structures. The school, to boot, also lacks basic study resources, which is greatly affecting their academic work. Sometimes I ask myself, which country does this? Which leaders lead like this? Which politicians fail like ours? Which people are as tame as we are vis-a-vis such terrible leadership? Before I end, let me draw your attention to something. Recently, I saw a story. It said that the Chinese, had started, we know they've been producing bits of cocoa, and we know what the intent is. Let's not even pretend. They are exporting this to Europe and other places, and guess what? Do you know how they are branding the cocoa? Cocoa produced from unpolluted sources, unpolluted land. But we have a lot of them here. contributing to the pollution of our environment. Do you see what is happening? They are saying our cocoa is unpolluted without saying, like those from Ghana. Last year, we had the Impriaso MP saying, the Chinese are deliberately engaging in illegal mining to destroy our cocoa business. Member of Parliament, Impriaso. This year, we see what is happening. When are we going to wake up? I conducted this exercise last year, and I'd like, as I cap all of this off, to repeat this very simple exercise with you in 2023. I shall take a page extract from Professor Chinua Achebe's masterpiece, The Trouble with Nigeria, published some 40 years ago in 1983. Now, wherever you hear or see Nigeria, I want you to replace it with Ghana. And I want you to tell me whether what he described as far back as 1983 is not exactly what we are witnessing now in Ghana in 2023. Ready? Let's do this. Where the problem lies. The trouble with Nigeria, or Ghana, is simply and squarely a failure of leadership. There is nothing basically wrong with the Nigerian character. There is nothing wrong with the Nigerian land or climate or water or air or anything else. The Nigerian problem is the unwillingness or inability of its leaders to rise to the responsibility, to the challenge of personal example, which are the hallmarks of true leadership. I am saying that Nigeria, or Ghana, can change today if she discovers leaders who have the will, the ability, and the vision. Such people are rare in any time or place, but it is the duty of enlightened citizens to lead the way in their discovery and to create an atmosphere conducive to their emergence. If this conscious effort is not made, good leaders, like good money, will be driven out by bad. The countless billions that a generous providence poured into our national coffers, so reflective of now, in the last 10 years, would have been enough to launch this nation into the rank of developed nations and transform the lives of our poor and needy. But what have we done with it? Stolen, salted away by people in power and their accomplices, squandered in uncontrollable importation of all kinds of useless consumer merchandise from every corner of the globe, embezzled through inflated contracts to an increasing army of party loyalists who have neither the desire nor the competence to execute their contracts, consumed in the escalating salaries of a grossly overstaffed and unproductive public service, and so on ad infinitum. Whenever two Nigerians or two Ghanaians meet, their conversation will sooner or later slide into a litany of our national deficiencies. The trouble with Nigeria, or Ghana, has become the subject of our small talk in much the same as the weather is for the English. But there is a great danger in consigning a life and death issue to the daily routine of small talk. No one can do much about the weather. We must accept it and live with or under it. But national bad habits are a different matter. We resign ourselves to them at our peril. Those are the words of Professor Chinua Achebe, The Trouble with Nigeria, copyright 1983. This, brothers and sisters, is why I do what I do. I don't want to resign myself to fate when a great destiny awaits us all. We do so, as Chinua Achebe makes clear, at our own peril. So the next time it rains and your community gets flooded, you know exactly whom to blame. The leaders who only lead by name, not by action. My name is Benjamin Akakpo. I am passionate about Ghana and Africa as a whole. I firmly believe we can change the script of our seemingly woe-begone continent. To do that, though, we need to change the way we think and act and say no to leaders who fail to deliver. These are the means we can employ if we mean to reap the benefits of the manifold resources we've been blessed with as a country and as a continent. These Ghana 4 are my blunt thoughts for you on another Friday morning, served hot, raw, unedited, undiluted. God richly bless Ghana and make her great and strong. Welcome back on the AM show. We're getting ready to cap off the show, but we'd love to hear from you. Today, we've taken your calls on the CSSPS, but initially we had that conversation on economic inequality, and if you like, inequity in the public sector. As for the private sector, we'll leave that for now. What are your thoughts on that conversation? I just shared my blunt thoughts with you as well. Are there any thoughts you have? As we get ready to wrap the show in the next 5-6 minutes, we'd love to hear from you. So call that number 0302 211 691. 0302 211 691. What is on your mind? And for those who may have had concerns about the CSSPS system, who could not get their calls through, you can share your thoughts and we'll communicate them. We have Akonoba, our first caller from Kumasi. Akonoba, good morning.
Yeah, my soul brother, how are you?
I am well. How about you?
I'm also fine. Where are the ladies?
Where is who?
Your partner on set.
Bernice Abubeidun Lanza. She's taking a little breather. She'll be back soon.
Okay. Captain said, I've missed her.
You've missed her,
eh? I love your talk. You know what? Please indulge me, okay? The issue, I want to just touch on what happened in Parliament yesterday. Just indulge me, respectfully, my brother. Can Kenneth Rather be trusted? That is my problem. You know, yesterday he came, he gave a nice speech, but the issue, can he be trusted? He said he will pay. So the question is, if you knew in ab initio that you are going to pay, why did you issue a statement telling the pensioners that you cannot pay them, so they should be part of the program? So that means Bibi Shaho. Bibi Shaho. So maybe
something
if
the
time reaches, he might tell you the money is not available, so wait. So you wait till 2 years to 3 years. My brother, so you see, I know most of the government officials, they listen to this program. Pensioners fund, you should not touch it, no matter what. Okay? But my brother, thank you. Happy weekend. I love you.
Thank you so much for sharing your thoughts, and a very happy weekend to you too. At least I'm happy for the pensioner bondholders, and I hope they get what they have worked for. You wouldn't want to, I mean, I'm not a pensioner, but you wouldn't want to spend your life working, invest, and then to have that investment pulled from under you like a rug. No one would want that, especially in those years when you are pretty vulnerable, susceptible, medical bills and all of that. But let's see whether we can get to a few more callers right before we wrap. The show is about you, so if you don't pick up your phone and call, wala o wala. 0302 211 691. 0302 211 691. I'll just go back to one thing. Something I brought to bear as I shared my blunt thoughts. That 93-year-old hospital facility. You see, sometimes it beats my imagination when we talk about doing certain things and developing in this country. There are projects in this country, Ghana, that have been going on for about 3 decades, 4 decades. One project. Same project. We keep doing it time and again. Administration in, administration out. This one starts, never finishes. Sometimes I ask myself whether it's a plan of the politicians so that they never finish and we can keep re-awarding contracts. Look at what is happening to Saglemi. And now the calls that if you're a private entity and you go there, the minority also has its own threats. Why? We have Joseph on the line. Hello, Joe.
Good morning, Ben.
Good morning.
Yeah, I hope you are well.
I'm trying, under the circumstances.
We thank God. My take this morning is that let's be frank. Our finance minister, anybody who says he's incompetent, he doesn't know what he's saying. He is very competent. They have all the people around them to advise them. So if they are still failing us, I see it to be deliberate.
So what you're saying then is this is not incompetence, this is deliberate incompetence.
Exactly. They have all the technocrats to advise them. We have the human resource in this country that can advise them. On PM Express, your colleague was interviewing Senior Hosi. He said it plainly that the ministry told him and some technocrats to sit down and come up with a plan. And they did a fantastic plan where government could cut some monies and generate revenue to support this program. Then the finance minister actually congratulated them for a good work done. Where is that document? Where is that document? So you see, it is not about incompetence. It is deliberate. Whatever they are doing is really deliberate. I hope next year elections, we can't say we won't have political leaders. We'll have political leaders. But we shouldn't give both parliament and the executive to one political party. That is our only way out. Thank you, Ben.
Thank you so much for sharing your thoughts with us. Some 54 minutes. It appears we will not be able to make more time to take some more calls. But I've enjoyed the interaction with you. I enjoy serving you, Ghana 4. It's always a privilege being here, and I look forward to this every weekday morning. Today's a Friday. Come Monday, you'll see my face again as we come here to do what we do best, delivering independent, fearless, and credible journalism. My name is Benjamin Akakpo. Thank you for having stayed with me. But stay with us, because if you want all the news, the tidbits, apart from myjoyonline.com, it's coming your way shortly on Joy News Desk. On that note, I salute you, Ghana 4. Have a lovely weekend.